Prologue. 10th of October, in the dead of the night, the most powerful Bijou, Kyubi no Kitsune, attacked the hidden village of Kanahigakure no Sato. Disaster struck as no one was able to stop the rampaging Bijou. Many shinobi lost their lives in the process, while almost half of the village was destroyed. That was until one man, the fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze, placed his life on the line to defeat the Bijou and save his village. In the end, he was able to stop the Kyubi by sealing the Bijou in a newborn baby, his own son, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, making him the next Jinchuriki of said Bijou. Though, this was at the cost of his and his wife's life, leaving the boy to be raised alone. 6 years later, the wind was blowing gently as a young boy sat atop the Hokage monument. His shoulder-length spiky blonde hair was blowing gently behind him, bangs covering the right side of his face as his bright blue eyes were shining from the sun's rays. His skin was fair, and his most noticeable features were the 3 whisker markings on each cheek. His signature of being a Jinchuriki. He was wearing a navy blue long-sleeve t-shirt with gray pants that ended just above his ankles, blue shinobi sandals to add to it. This boy's name was Naruto Uzumaki, a 6-year-old, and the Jinchuriki of the most powerful Bijou, the Kyubi no Kitsune. He was overlooking the village as he thought. He always did like to come up to this place to think and relax. It has always been a peaceful place for him. 2 weeks ago, the third Hokage told him that he has submitted his admissions form for joining the Ninja Academy, and now, from tomorrow on, he will be going to the academy to become a shinobi. His dream is to become the Hokage so that he can protect the village he loves so dearly. Along with his dream, he wishes to surpass the 4th Hokage and get acknowledged by everyone as someone important. He knows the villagers don't like him much for reasons unknown to him, and his Gigi also won't tell him. Every time he asks, the answer always remains the same. I will tell you when you are old enough to know the truth. He had already started his basic ninja training 2 years ago, and his Gigi has helped him with some basic taijutsu techniques. He is very good with shuriken jutsu and kunai throwing, as he had also trained his body quite well for speed and quick reflexes. From tomorrow on, he is going to take his first step towards his dream. He was still nervous just thinking about it. Normally, he was very calm and insightful, it all starting from a young age, showing noticeable maturity and knowledge on how to deal with complex situations. At the same time, he is still a young boy, so it shouldn't come as a surprise to him to feel nervous. He lets out a sigh as he comes back from his thoughts. Blinking, he looks up, noticed that it was already dark as the sky was starting to fill with stars. He hadn't realized how long he had been sitting there. He was so lost in his confused thoughts that he didn't realize that a person was coming towards him from behind until the person spoke. "Ah, I knew I'd find you here, Naruto-kun." At hearing that voice, Naruto turned around and saw his surrogate grandfather, Sarutobi Hiruzen, the 3rd Hokage of Konoha, standing with a kind smile. He was wearing his formal Hokage robes as his skin was light pale, gray hair slightly mussed. His face had wrinkles and liver spots, signifying his old age. "What are you doing here, Gigi? I thought you'd be busy with your paperwork," Naruto asked, surprised. On hearing about paperwork, Hiruzen's face twitches a little before he composed himself. "Don't talk about my paperwork, Naruto-kun. I swear it's a bane for all Kages." Naruto just shook his head and turned around, looking over the village again, seeing the streetlights starting to light up. Hiruzen walked over and stood beside him before asked with concern, "Is something on your mind, Naruto-kun?" Naruto knew that he could always talk about anything with his surrogate grandfather. He was always concerned about him and helped him whenever he was in need. He also took him out to Ichiraku's for ramen whenever he could. He always looked for Naruto's best. Most importantly, though, he is the only person he has in his life. Turning his face in Hiruzen's direction, Naruto replied, "I'm just a little nervous. Tomorrow is going to be my first day in the academy and first steps towards my dream. I am scared of failures." Listening to him, Hiruzen asked, "What is your dream, Naruto-kun?" Naruto was quiet for some time before answered him. "I want to become a shinobi among shinobi, strongest of them all, and surpass all the previous Hokages, becoming the strongest of them all." "That is quite a big dream you have there, Naruto-kun," said Hiruzen, a gentle smile gracing his face. He knew that Naruto was a very talented kid, far more mature than the other kids his age. Hearing him say that he wanted to become Hokage, Hiruzen was happy for him. Why do you want to become the Hokage? I want to become the Hokage so that I can protect the village which the previous Hokages, along with many shinobi, have given their lives to protect. Then everyone will respect me and acknowledge me as someone, Naruto said, his voice firm and eyes determined. Hiruzen, hearing this from a 6-year-old boy and seeing the determination in his young eyes, was very impressed. To think that such a young boy can have a mindset like this at such a young age. At that moment, Hiruzen knew about the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze, how proud he would be if he saw Naruto, his only son, and how well he is growing up as a person. Hiruzen knew that he was going to tell Naruto about his parents very soon. There was also the truth about the 9 tails being sealed inside of him. Sooner or later, he will have to tell him about everything. Getting out of his thoughts, he turned to his side with a big smile on his face. I'm impressed, Naruto-kun. You're only 6 and know what it takes to be a Hokage. You already possess the will of fire, Hiruzen said with pride, gentleness, and pride shining in his old eyes. Naruto looked confused, not understanding what his Gigi was trying to imply. The will of fire? What does that mean? Seeing his confused face, Hiruzen's smile turned small as he turned around and looked over his village. The village is a big family. In here, everyone is family. The desire to protect one's family builds thicker and stronger bonds between everyone in the village. That is what the will of fire means. That is the job of the Hokage and every shinobi of the village. It is why we protect each other in our home. Now you understand, Naruto-kun, what it means to be a shinobi and what it means to be the Hokage. Now understanding what it means to be a shinobi and what it means to be the Hokage, he smiles slightly. He looks over the village, seeing people walking the lightly lit streets, happily chatting with each other. Family. You always protect your family. Now, most importantly, realizing what the village means, he knew what he had to do in his life. Turning around to face the Hokage, Naruto said, I promise you, Gigi, that I will protect this peace. I will protect this village. I will do everything in my power to keep this place like this and protect my home. Should anyone try to harm it, whether they are my comrade, friend, even my family, I will show no mercy to them in defending it. I give you my word, Gigi, Naruto said, a strong conviction in his voice. Hiruzen's eyes were lightly wide as he was shocked at the words and promise Naruto made to him. You were meant for great things, Naruto-kun. I can see it just by looking at you, thought Hiruzen as his face mellows into a loving smile. Hiruzen patted Naruto's shoulder. You will be a great shinobi and an even greater Hokage, Naruto-kun. I believe in you. Naruto's face brightened with a big smile at hearing his Gigi say he believes in him. Thank you, old man. I won't let you down. Hiruzen was happy to see Naruto happy. He then looks up, seeing the sky, and realized it was getting late. Looking over to Naruto, Hiruzen continues. Come now, Naruto-kun, it's getting late, and tomorrow is going to be your first day at the academy. You don't want to be late on your first day because of waking up late, do you? Hi, Gigi, said Naruto. He really doesn't want to be late on his first day in the academy. Come on, I'll treat you Ichirakus for dinner, said Hiruzen. Naruto happily complied and started to walk down the monument with his Gigi. Ichiraku's stand. The walk there was rather quiet. Naruto and Hiruzen just observed the lightly lit streets with people walking to and fro. Now, coming to stop at the Ichiraku's ramen stand, they both went inside and sat on the stools in front of the counter. Hiruzen cleared his throat to get the attention of Tucci, the owner of the shop, who turned around at hearing the noise. Coming over to the counter, he sees his favorite customer sitting with the 3rd Hokage. Hokage-sama, Naruto-kun, it's been a while. How are you both? Tucci asked, directing his question to Naruto. It hasn't been that long, old man. I've been busy with my training, responded Naruto, a small smile on his lips. He knew Tucci and his daughter, Ayam, had always treated him well, considering him their best customer and sometimes even giving him free ramen on special occasions. He noticed that he also cared for him as he often asked him what was going on if he hadn't seen him in a while or if he was feeling down. So what will you have, Hokage-sama? Naruto asked Teuchi. "I'll have one bowl of pork ramen, please," said Hiruzen. "I'll have the usual, old man," Naruto said calmly. "One pork ramen and one Naruto special coming right up," said Teuchi as he walked to the back to prepare the ramen. After some time, Teuchi came back with 2 hot ramen bowls and set them in front of the two. Without wasting any time, both Naruto and Hiruzen with a quick itadakamasu before happily digging into their separate bowls. The three were chatting with each other for a while until a new voice got their attention. "Naruto-kun, Hokage-sama, how are you?" They soon found Ayam coming around the counter and standing with her father, the voice coming from her. She greeted them with a big happy smile on her face. She is 11 years old with long, dark brown hair and large black eyes, her skin fair. She was wearing a white robe with the sleeves folded, a sort of dark apron tied at the top, and a bright bandana. "I'm fine, Ayam-chan, how are you?" Hiruzen asked the happy girl with a gentle smile. "I'm also fine, Hokage-sama," replied Ayam before she turned towards Naruto and placing her elbows on the counter. Leaned forward, she asked him, "So Naruto, tomorrow's going to be your first day at the Ninja Academy. Are you done with your preparing?" Naruto nodded and replied, "Hi, I am Nei-chan. I'm finished with all the preparation." "That's good, Naruto. Do well with your academics," said Ayam. Naruto replied with a nod. "I will." "Yeah, brat. Become strong and make us proud," Teuchi said. Hiruzen smiled at seeing the interaction between them. He was happy that Naruto was able to create a bond with some people. He just hoped that he could also create some special bonds with children around his age. Seeing that Naruto had finished his ramen, Hiruzen stood up. "Well, Teuchi, your ramen is as delicious as ever, but we should get going now." Naruto soon stood up as well, thanking the father and daughter for the ramen, who in return wished him luck happily. All the while, Hiruzen placed the money on the counter and walked out of the small restaurant with Naruto. They walked the street in silence until they arrived at Naruto's apartment. "Well, Naruto-kun, get a good night's rest and don't be late tomorrow, alright?" "Hi Gigi, I'll be on time," replied Naruto. Hiruzen nodded, satisfied, and said, "I'll be going now. Good night, Naruto-kun. I'll see you tomorrow." "Good night, Gigi," replied Naruto before Hiruzen left the apartment building. After that, Naruto went inside his small apartment, which was decent and clean, and went towards his bathroom to freshen up before getting changed for bed. After finishing getting ready, Naruto went to bed, setting up his alarm clock for 5 a.m. and went to sleep. The next morning, Naruto woke up from the sound of his alarm clock ringing. He looked at the clock and thought that he still had some time before the academy started. He decided to get ready and went towards the bathroom to finish his morning routine. After cleaning up, Naruto came out from the bathroom with a towel wrapped around his waist. He dried himself with another towel as he grabbed his clothes. He wore high-collar half-sleeve navy blue t-shirt with the Uzumaki clan symbol, black pants, and ninja sandals with it. He looked at himself in the mirror, seeing he looked decent and attractive. He then decided to check the academy books that the third Hokage had bought him before placing them in his school bag. After he was done, he looked at the clock and noticed that he still had some time before he had to go to the academy. Seeing as he still had time left, he went into the kitchen to prepare himself some eggs and toasts with milk for breakfast. Preparing breakfast soon reminded him of the time Gigi had taught him how to cook. Finishing preparing his breakfast, he went towards his dining table to eat. While eating, he decided to read a book on sealing for beginners, which was given to him by the third Hokage when he showed his interest in the sealing arts. He really wanted to know more about the sealing arts after learning that the second and fourth Hokage were very good at that art. He hadn't started practicing making the seals yet. The Hokage had warned him not to practice seals alone until getting a good understanding of it, along with making his handwriting better. Finishing his breakfast, he placed the book aside and went to wash his dishes. Soon finishing, he looked at the clock again and noticed that it was finally almost time for the academy to start. He went over and picked up his bag, walked out of the house, and locking the door behind him. He decided to roof jump, seeing that it would be faster than walking. He was soon jumping on the nearest building before jumping over to the next building, going progressively faster. Ninja Academy. 10 minutes later, Naruto arrived at the front gate of the academy. Without wasting any time, He went inside and noticed all the kids were around his age and standing in a group, facing the stage. Some academy teachers were standing around the stage, seemingly waiting for the third Hokage's arrival. He also noticed that behind the kids, parents and family members of the students stood calmly, some of the adults giving him dirty glares. He didn't pay them much mind as he walked to stand in the last line of the students in the back. A few minutes later, the third Hokage arrived in a shunshin and stood on the stage, gaining all the people's attention. Congratulations on your acceptance into the academy, everyone. From this day forth, do your best to reach your goals on becoming a shinobi of our village. You are all going to be the future of our village, so take your studies and training seriously. Do your best, and good luck to you all. The Hokage finished his speech, a proud smile on his face. After the third Hokage finished his speech, all family members said their goodbyes before the teachers took the students away towards their classrooms. Arriving at the classroom, students took their seats and settled down. Naruto took a seat in the corner, near the window. Settling down, Naruto notices some of the girls were glancing at him. Naruto paid them no mind and looked ahead when the teacher opened the door and walked in. The teacher was an 18-year-old man of average height and build. He had brown hair that he kept up in a ponytail, dark brown eyes with a scar that ran across the bridge of his nose. He wore the standard Konoha shinobi outfit, complete with forehead protector, sandals, and a chunin flak jacket. His sleeves were also rolled up about halfway. He came to stand in front of the students and, after glancing over everyone, started with his introduction. Good morning, students. My name is Irika Yumino. You will be calling me Irika-sensei from now on. Getting a chorus of "Hi Sensei," Irika continued. Very well then, we will start with the introductions first. Just telling us your name and dreams will be all right. He then pointed at the first row of students to start. As the class continued with the introduction, Naruto looked at everyone and noticed that there were a lot of clan kids. The Nara, Akamichi, Yamanaka, Aburame, and Uchiha, as well as some kids from civilian families. Seeing that it was now his turn for introduction, he stood up. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and my dream is to become the Hokage and protect the village hidden in the leaves. Finishing with his introduction, Naruto sat down and noticed that everyone was looking at him with surprise, some hiding it better than others. Paying them no mind, Naruto looked outside at the birds sitting in a tree. Soon, the introductions were over, making Irika smile at them. Okay, class, before we start with our lecture, I wanted to say that I'm sure some of you have already been taught ninjutsu in your household. Here at the academy, though, you will also be trained in coordination and working together as a team when you are in a group. The fundamentals are very important, so make sure you learn them well. Now then, our first lecture is going to be on history, said Irika. The lecture went without any incident, though. Throughout the lecture, Irika was very impressed with Naruto, as he was able to answer every question that he asked him. After a small break, Irika called for everyone's attention. Come on, students, gather up in a line. We are going out for shuriken and kunai practice. Irika took all the students towards the academy training grounds. There, in the training grounds, were training posts for target practicing as well as a few buckets of shuriken and kunai. Irika took them there and showed them how to handle and throw kunai and shuriken. He told them to start practicing before going and standing on the sidelines, observing everyone. When he noticed Naruto, he was once again very impressed with Naruto's skills in. To think that he was throwing 4 kunai at the same time and hitting the center of the target every time. He decided to walk over to him for a small chat. Naruto was throwing kunai when Irika showed up with a smile. You are very skilled with kunai and shuriken throwing, Naruto. Naruto looks at him and replied, Hi sensei, I have been training in my alone time. Well, I must say Naruto, I'm impressed you're taking your training seriously at such a young age, said Irika. Naruto just nodded with a small smile. Well, Naruto, if you ever need any help, you can come to me, alright? Irika knew that Naruto didn't have many people in his life, and some of the villagers also didn't treat him well because of him being the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Irika never did hold any grudge against Naruto as he knew the difference between the demon fox and Naruto. He knew that Naruto was the one who was keeping the fox at bay and protecting the village. He really wanted to help him because Iruka knew that Naruto was just a lonely kid who didn't have many people to support him. Iruka himself had lost his parents in the Nine Tails attack, so he could understand him a little. Naruto nodded and smiles again. "Hi sensei, I will." "Thank you," replied Naruto. He was happy that his sensei is willing to help him and was not like some of the other villagers. Iruka just smiled and nodded before going to observe the other students, helping some who were having a problem doing it properly. After about 30 minutes, Iruka gathered all students around in a big circle and said, "It's time for taijutsu lessons. Before that, though, is there anyone who's up for a spar?" After a few seconds, one of the students walked forward and stepped into the middle of the circle with his arms crossed and an arrogant smirk on his face. Seeing that Iruka needed one more student for the match to start, but no one was volunteering, he decided to choose himself. He looked over everyone before deciding to call on Naruto. "Come on, Naruto, you're up." Naruto walked forward, stepping into the circle. He came face to face with his opponent, his face relaxed as the rest of his body. The other kid looks him over with arrogant eyes. "You should give up, Blondie. You don't stand a chance against an Uchiha. You won't be able to touch me." Naruto looked at him from head to toe, and then he looked at Iruka, wondering when he was going to start the match. Seeing his look, Iruka sighed. "Okay, both of you, before we start the spar you both need to make a proper confrontation with your dominant hand before you two begin. It's proper edicts dash." The Uchiha kid interrupted Iruka's speech rudely. "Come on, sensei. Just start the match already so I can show him his place," trying to act cool in front of everyone. Iruka sighed frustratingly. "Enough, Uchiha-san. Shinobi hand-to-hand combat is a tradition passed down from generation to generation. You might think it's stupid to act formal, but here at the academy, we have respect for tradition." Then Iruka showed them the proper sign. First, you have to make sure you face your opponent and point one hand at him. It signifies the first half of making jutsu seals with both hands, and it shows your willingness to fight. This is full etiquette of the shinobi pair sparring. Iruka explained. Naruto and the Uchiha both nodded. Both the children made the proper one-hand seal in front of each other. Seeing this, Iruka started. "Both fighters ready?" Seeing them nod, Iruka continued. "Hajime." The Uchiha wasting no time, running towards Naruto with a punch aimed at his face. Naruto just stood there waiting for him. When the Uchiha came near Naruto, he grabbed his wrist and flipped him on his back, holding his arm. His head rested on Naruto's feet. "The match is over," Iruka said, shock present in his voice. He was surprised at how quickly Naruto had finished the fight. All the other students were also looking at him in amazement and shock. Some of the girls even had hearts in their eyes as they cheered for him. "Wow, Naruto-kun is so strong. He's so cool. Go, Naruto-kun." The girls cheered for him loudly. The Uchiha, coming out of his shock, stood slowly and glared at Naruto. Iruka, seeing this, came between them. "Good match, you two. Now both of you offer each other the seal of reconciliation." Both of the boys crossed their middle and index finger with each other as a reconciliation seal, the Uchiha looking like he swallowed a lemon all the way. The rest of the day went uneventfully at the academy. As the academy ended, Naruto decided to head towards the Hokage Tower to visit the third Hokage. Hokage Tower. Arriving at the Hokage Tower, Naruto went up the stairs, soon coming to a stop at the Hokage's door. Naruto knocked on the door a couple of times before the Hokage's voice came from the other side. "Come in." Naruto opened the door and stepped inside. Hiruzen looked up from his paperwork, smiling at seeing Naruto. "Naruto-kun, how was your day at the academy?" Naruto closed the door behind him before speaking. "Gigi, can you teach me some jutsu?" Hiruzen pauses in his paperwork, looking confused for a moment before continuing. "Aren't they teaching you that in the academy?" "But Gigi, it's too easy with what they were teaching there. I did everything the sensei asked me to do very easily, and I even beat an Uchiha in today's spar," said Naruto, a frown tugging his face. Hiruzen listened to him before he smiled proudly at him. He stood up from his seat and walked up to him, patted him on the head. "Well done, Naruto-kun. You're quite talented for your age. However, I can't teach you much as it will be unfair to the other students, and as Hokage, I can't show favoritism to anyone." Naruto was upset but nodded in understanding. Seeing the sad look on Naruto's face, Hiruzen felt bad for Naruto. He knew the others in the academy had the backup from their clans and can learn from their parents. Hiruzen walked back to his desk and opened one of his drawers. He took out a couple of scrolls and gave them to Naruto. Here, take these scrolls. They have some advanced chakra control exercises and a couple of academy-level jutsu in them. It will help you in the future. Naruto's eyes lit up as he took the scrolls with a large grin. Thank you, Gigi. Hiruzen chuckled a little, sitting back down. Well, you can ask me for anything, all right? Naruto nodded and said, Okay, I'll see you later, Gigi. I'm going to get some training done. Hiruzen nodded to him with a smile before getting back to work. Naruto left the office to get to the training ground, excitement coursing through him. Naruto soon arrived at the training grounds near the forest. He always came here to train. Not many people came around there, so he can train here without being disturbed. Coming to a stop at the opening, Naruto decided to open the scrolls to see what techniques he had to practice. Opening the first scroll, Naruto started to read the 3 techniques written down. Transformation Jutsu, Substitution Jutsu, Fire Style Fireball Jutsu, both E rank and 1 C rank. Not bad. He started reading the description of the justice, trying to fully understand them. The first one was the Transformation Jutsu. Transformation Jutsu. This jutsu allows the user to transform either themselves or another object into the appearance of another person, animal, or object. This is one of the basic jutsu taught at the Ninja Academy. Fundamentally, all ninja know this jutsu. The transformation technique requires constant emission of chakra while mentally maintaining the form. The hand seals required for this are Dogbor Ram. Substitution Jutsu. With this technique, the user replaces their own body with another object, generally with a log, the moment an attack is about to land. This creates an optical illusion, making the enemy think the attack was successful. From this, the user can use the lapse in the enemy's attention to attack or flee from the battlefield. Explosive tags can be attached to the replacement for an added surprise. Despite it being a basic ninjutsu taught at the academy, it is seen as a useful art that can be applied in a variety of situations as it allows for a swift getaway from danger. This technique even allows a restrained shinobi to escape capture. Fire-style fireball jutsu is a technique where chakra is converted into a fire from the inside and expelled from the mouth, either as a massive sphere or as a continuous flame. The released flames will engulf their target and are capable of leaving a crater in the ground's surface with enough force. The scope of this attack can be altered by controlling the volume of chakra that is mustered. The required hand seals for the jutsu are Tiger or Snake Ram Monkey Boar Horse Tiger. Finished with the first scroll, Naruto then opened the second scroll. In the scroll were the techniques on how to better control your chakra. First one was leaf balancing. He had already learned this technique when he first started his ninja training 2 years ago. The second one was the tree walking exercise without the use of hands, by concentrating chakra at your feet and moving up. The third one was the water walking exercise. It was similar to the tree walking exercise, but the more advanced version of it. Naruto decided to first start with the chakra control exercise. As it said in the scroll, the better your control is, the better your success rate of your jutsu is without you wasting unnecessarily chakra. With that, he started his training for the rest of the day. Time skipped 6 months later. It's been 6 months since Naruto started the academy. He had improved a lot in the past 6 months. He had mastered some of the basic jutsu, which the third Hokage had given him months ago. His only problem was that he was not able to properly control his chakra. He had completed all the chakra control exercises in the scroll, but still, he was not able to properly control his chakra and perform Bunshin no Jutsu. The third Hokage told him it would be difficult to perform basic A, Bunshin, because of his large chakra capacity. Such large amount of chakra can't be controlled all at once, and the basic clone jutsu required very little chakra to be formed. He had not yet learned anything new in the academy. They were still going on with shinobi history and chakra introduction theories. He was still pretty advanced from his classmates. All of his teachers were very impressed with seeing his progress, though some more afraid or disgusted than others. Some of the nice ones were even calling him a genius in the shinobi arts. Today, he was in the training grounds near the forest, practicing a new taijutsu style. A month ago, the Hokage had shown him a new taijutsu style called the hummingbird, to which he perfectly adapted to because of his speed and reflexes. Naruto was quite surprised when the Hokage told him that the hummingbird taijutsu style was created and used by the fourth Hokage. While he was elastic to be able to learn his idol's taijutsu style, he was also confused, wondering why the Hokage would teach him the personal taijutsu style of the fourth Hokage. He soon just brushed it off, though, saving the question for a later date as he got into learning the taijutsu style. The style suited his growing body quite well. He hadn't mastered it yet, but he was still quite talented at it. Of course, he still messed up every now and then. That was just the way of learning. Naruto stopped his training, standing straight, and observed the area around him, looking for a presence of another person. He had a feeling that someone was watching him for some time now. He just couldn't find the person. "Come out now. I know you're there," Naruto said calmly while folding his arms. "I'm up here," came a calm, quiet voice. Naruto looked up in the direction the voice came from, only to see a boy around 12 or 13 years of age, smiling and waving down at him. "Who are you and why are you spying on me?" Naruto asked him, eyes slightly narrowed. "My name is Uchiha Itachi," said the boy, now known as Itachi. Naruto observes the boy. Itachi had onyx eyes, under which were long, pronounced lines, most likely from stress. He had jet black hair that was pulled back in a ponytail, reaching mid-back, his center-parted bangs framing his face perfectly. He was wearing a black shirt, seeing an Uchiha symbol on the back when he moved. He wore grayish-black pants with a weapon pouch strapped to his thigh with bandages around his ankles, wearing black sandals. "You didn't answer my question, Itachi-san," Naruto said with a little frown on his face. Itachi smiled slightly before speaking, his voice still soft. "I am not spying on you. I come to train here sometimes." Naruto looked him over for lies before nodding, turning around to start his shuriken and kunai practice, forgetting about Itachi. Itachi watched Naruto as he threw 4 kunai with both hands at the target and hitting the bullseye on all at them. "You know, it's very rude to ignore a person standing beside you. You haven't even introduced yourself yet," Itachi said from the side. He knew who the boy was. Every adult knew who he was. He just decided to be a little formal as this was their first time meeting each other. Naruto paused before turning around and blinking a couple of times, confused. He then laughed a little nervously, rubbing the back of his neck before saying, Yes, sorry, I forgot. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you, Itachi-san." Itachi smiled at his reaction as it kind of reminded him of his little brother. "It's nice to meet you too, Naruto-kun, but would you mind telling me why you are here? You should be at the academy at this time of day. I am sure Hokage-sama will not be happy if he found out you were skipping your classes." Naruto got a little embarrassed at that. He is caught. He had started skipping classes about a month ago, around the same time he got the hummingbird taijutsu, to focus on his training outside the academy. He knew that if the old man Hokage found out about his actions, he could get in serious trouble. He looked at Itachi, still embarrassed from being caught, and asked, "You are not going to tell him, right?" Itachi chuckled lightly at his question. "It's all right, Naruto-kun, but would you mind telling me why you're skipping your classes?" he asked again. Naruto sighs in relief, shoulders slumping slightly before answered Itachi. "Well, they don't teach anything important in there. All they're teaching is chakra introduction and history lesson. Stuff I already know. It's boring." "I can see that you are very talented for your age. I understand," Itachi said, looking at all the kunai and shurikens scattered around the training field. Looking back at Naruto, Itachi asked, "Where did you learn to do this?" Naruto smiled at him, pride shining in his eyes. "Hokage helps me out from time to time." Itachi nodded, not at all surprised at his relationship with their Hokage, saying, "Would you mind if I train with you, Naruto-kun?" Naruto's eyes lit up slightly as he shook his head, happily replying back to Itachi's question. "Of course not, Itachi-san. You can train here with me anytime." Itachi nodded in appreciation, and soon, they both started their training. Itachi took out 8 kunai, holding 4 in both hands. Naruto looked at Itachi, curious about what he was going to do. Itachi jumped high in the air and launched all 8 kunai at the same time, before he quickly summoned 2 more kunai in his left hand, throwing both the kunai in the direction of other 2 kunai that were going off target. Hitting both kunai, he deflecting them and changed their direction in midair. Because of this, it makes him hit all the targets, even the 2 blind spot targets. Right as the last kunai hit, he landed on the ground, barely rustling up the dirt. Naruto, on the other hand, was wide-eyed at seeing Itachi's skills in the kunai jutsu. He had never seen anything like that. Still shocked, he quietly asked, That was cool. How did you do that?" Itachi turned and looked at Naruto, slightly hidden amusement in his eyes as he watched Naruto's reaction. He decided to take pity on the boy and answered him, "Well, the kunai jutsu is one of my specialties." "Can you teach me how to do that, Itachi-san?" asked Naruto, excitement coating his voice thickly. "I can teach you, Naruto-kun. You just have to keep practicing and improve your aiming," Itachi said as he relaxes his stance. Standing up straight again, he gives a small smile to Naruto before his face relaxes. Naruto nodded at him, still very excited. He always did love learning new things. Itachi then showed him how to hold kunai in both of his hands, telling Naruto to give it a try, which he did moments later. Naruto tried to do what Itachi did, but it came back as a failure. He tried it a few more times, but couldn't hit the kunai in midair to change their direction. He was starting to get a little frustrated by his failure. Itachi, seeing this, shook his head and spoke up. "You will get it in time, Naruto-kun. You just have to keep practicing it. Mainly your aim, as that seems to be your main problem." Naruto sighed and nodded at Itachi. He knew that Itachi was right, but he was still a little disappointed that he couldn't do it after so many tries. He then started again, now determined to fully learn the move. After some more trying, Naruto slowly started to improve bit by bit. He was now able to hit the kunai in midair on some tries to change its direction, but was still unable to hit the targets, as he wouldn't hit them the right way. Itachi, who was observing Naruto from the side, was quite impressed with Naruto's progress. It kind of reminded him of himself. Though, seeing that Naruto was starting to get tired, he interrupted him from trying to do it again. "I think that is enough for today, Naruto-kun. You should rest now." Naruto freezes before relaxing and nodding to Itachi, agreeing with him as he was started to slow down. Once he put his kunai back in his holster, he walked up to Itachi and sat down on the log next to him, resting up a bit. Itachi, too, sat down next to Naruto, quietly speaking to him. "You did well today. I didn't expect for you to improve this much." Naruto smiled at the compliment before responding. "Thank you, Itachi-san, for teaching me your kunai technique to me. It is quite all right, Naruto-kun. I am glad to see you getting the hang of it so quickly." Itachi was quite happy that he has finally met Naruto. He really wanted to meet the boy for a very long time now. He was first curious about him as the adults always spoke badly of him. His curiosity soon turned into warmth once he finally met him. He got the little brother feel from Naruto. Itachi also knew who Naruto's parents were. His mother, Mikoto, was best friends with Naruto's parents, Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. He himself was quite close to Naruto's parents before they passed. Kushina was his godmother. He had spent a lot of time with her, loving her company. He could still remember when Kushina told him that he was going to be a big brother. Flashback. A 6-year-old Itachi was walking out of the hospital, hand in hand with his mother, Mikoto, and his godmother, Kushina. He was looking at Kushina, wondering why they all came here. Looking at Kushina, who was walking ahead of him, Itachi asked, "Aunt Kushina, are you sick?" Kushina laughed loudly as she turned around with a big smile on her face, looking at Itachi. "No, Itachi-kun, I'm perfectly fine." Itachi was confused as he asks innocently, "Then why are you visiting the hospital?" Kushina's eyes were bright as she answered him, "You see, I'm going to become a mother soon. Tatabang. That's why I have to come in for a checkup." Itachi's eyes widened in surprise at hearing her answer. She was going to be a mother. He looked back at Kushina and asked another question. "Does that mean I am going to be a big brother?" Kushina pauses before continuing to walk, her grin turning into a gentle, loving smile as she stared at Itachi. She stopped walking entirely and turned around, walking up to him. She tapped his forehead with 2 fingers and said, "Yes, Itachi-kun, you're going to be a big brother." Itachi rubbed his forehead, but was happy that he was going to be a big brother. His mother, who was standing to the side, smiled at seeing the interaction between her son and Kushina. She knew her son was very close with Kushina and Minato, but her husband, Fugaku, was against on letting Itachi interact much with Minato and Kushina. Mikoto soon noticed that it was getting late, so she looked towards Kushina and Itachi, speaking up. "We should get going, Kushina. Fugaku will not be happy if he is aware of me and Itachi coming to visit you." Kushina snorted at Fugaku's name. She was still not happy with Mikoto for getting married to that team, who just wanted power, but just nodded. "It's all right, Mikoto. You and Itachi can come by any time, though. My home is always welcome to you, too." Then, Kushina turned in Itachi's direction with a big smile, poking his forehead with 2 fingers again. "Bye, Itachi-kun. I'll see you around." Itachi rubbed his forehead again with a small smile. "Bye, Ani Kushina," he said before walking off with his mother, waving goodbye to Kushina. Flashback end. Itachi, coming back to reality, looked at Naruto as he was calling for his attention. "I'm sorry, were you saying something, Naruto-kun?" Naruto frowned slightly before looking at Itachi, asking a question that caught Itachi off guard. "Why is there fighting in life?" Itachi was indeed caught off guard by the question. He was not expecting anything like that. He was quiet for a while, not knowing what to say as he himself was asking the same question as well. Itachi shook his head at Naruto with a slight frown. "Who knows, but if fighting can be stopped, I'd like to stop it." Naruto was quiet for a bit, looking down into his lap as he thought. After a bit, he looks back up at Itachi, determination burning in his eyes. "I'd like to do the same thing. I don't like unnecessary fighting." Itachi looked at Naruto with unreadable eyes. "Then why are you training to fight if you don't like fighting, Naruto-kun?" "So that I can protect our village and become the strongest Hokage. Then people will have to respect me," said Naruto, no hesitation in his voice. Itachi's eyes softened slightly as he smiled at him. "Well, that is a big goal you have. Good luck with accomplishing it, Naruto-kun." Naruto smiled back at Itachi in thanks before speaking again. "I should be going now, Itachi-san. Thank you for teaching me that kunai move of yours," he said before he got up and started to jog away, waving goodbye to Itachi. "See you around, Naruto-kun," Itachi said softly, he himself waving goodbye. He suddenly got very nostalgia. Itachi smiled a small happy smile, looking in Naruto's direction. He has finally met Naruto. He has been trying for so long to introduce himself in front of Naruto, but didn't know how to confront him. Nevertheless, he was glad that he finally met him. He had promised himself that he will look after Naruto. On the other hand, there was still the situation with his clan. As they slowly started to lose their patience with the village, things after the Kyuubi attack were not good for the Uchiha clan, as the higher-up villagers started accusing the Uchiha clan of being behind the attack, making the clan start to isolate itself in suspension. Now, as he had joined the ANBU, his father wanted him to supply secret information to his clan for its own benefits. He knew his clan would go to any lengths to take back the power they wanted. He just hoped that his little brother and Naruto never get involved in it. Naruto's apartment. It was soon night time and Naruto was in his apartment practicing calligraphy so that he could soon start practicing the sealing arts. The Hokage had told him he needed to be very good with calligraphy so that it would be easier on him for drawing up seals. Midway done, he heard a quiet knock on the front door. Already knowing who it was, he quickly got up, making sure he didn't knock over anything before he ran to open the door. Opening the door, he was greeted by the smiling face of Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage, and his Gigi. Naruto smiled at seeing Hiruzen before grinning. "Gigi, I have been waiting for you to come." Hiruzen laughed lightly, an eyebrow raised as he wondered what's gotten him in such high spirits tonight. It wasn't very often you get to see this kind of expression from Naruto. "Well, I wanted to talk to you about something, but first, would you mind if I come in?" Hiruzen asked calmly, if not kindly. "Huh, of course, Gigi. Please, come in. I just got a little excited to see you," said Naruto, rubbing the back of his neck in embarrassment before quickly stepping aside for Hiruzen, allowing him to come in. Hiruzen stepped inside, pausing for a moment as he looked around. Seeing all the papers and ink around the room, he realized that Naruto was practicing calligraphy. He walked in further as he looked closer before turning to look at Naruto, who had a happy expression on his face. So, you were doing calligraphy, Naruto-kun? Hiruzen asked Naruto. Hi Gigi, Naruto said, a slight pep in his voice. His excitement was slowly calming down, but neither minded. Hiruzen nodded to him, before asking him another question. So, where were you today? I got news that you didn't attend today's academy classes. What do you have to say for yourself? Huh, Naruto-kun? It's not just today either. You haven't been attending academy classes regularly for around a month. Naruto looked a little uncomfortable. He didn't expect for the Hokage to find out about him ditching his classes. He tried to play innocent as he nervously said, "WW, what are you saying, Gigi?" Now, don't try to hide it, Naruto-kun. Your academy teacher, Iruka, had come to my office this afternoon and informed me that you were not attending his lessons regularly. Just tell me the truth, please. Why are you not attending the academy regularly? Hiruzen asked, his voice stern. Naruto, seeing no reason to hide it anymore, decided to come clean. He folded his arms, not meeting Hiruzen's eyes, and said, Fine, you got me. Gigi, I already know all the stuff they're teaching in the academy. That doesn't mean that you can skip them. Don't take the academy classes for granted. You've still got a lot to learn, Naruto-kun. It seems to me that you're getting arrogant in your skills, thinking the academy is a waste of time for you. Hiruzen scolded Naruto. Naruto lowered his head down in shame. He never liked upsetting his Gigi, who cared so much for him. This time, though, he was the reason for getting his Gigi upset at him. He was ashamed of himself for letting his Gigi down. I'm sorry, Gigi, it won't happen again, said Naruto, still not meeting Hiruzen's eyes. Hiruzen stared hard at the boy before sighing. Listen, Naruto-kun, I know that you already know all the things they are teaching you in the academy, but everybody can't be like you. In the academy, they teach you according to your age. That is not all they teach, though. They also teach you how to communicate and form a bond with your fellow comrades, who of which you're going to be working with in the future. Right now, you don't know anything about it or them. Naruto nodded slowly, head still bent. I understand, Gigi. I promise I won't do anything to upset you. I will attend my classes regularly from now on. Hiruzen relaxes slightly and smiled at Naruto, satisfied now that Naruto understood the importance of basics. I am glad that you understood this, Naruto-kun, but would you mind telling me what you were doing when you were not attending classes? Naruto was happy that his Gigi had forgiven him, so when he went to speak again, he looks up at him, meeting Hiruzen's eyes. I was training during that time, Gigi. I even met someone today at the training grounds while training. He was pretty cool and strong. At this, Hiruzen had his full attention towards what Naruto was saying. He had to know who this person was and whether he was friend or foe for Naruto. Who did you meet, Naruto-kun? He was from the Uchiha clan. I think his name was Itachi Uchiha. He was pretty strong, and he even taught me some awesome kunai moves, Naruto said, a small excited smile gracing his face. Hiruzen relaxed at hearing Itachi's name as he knew that Itachi was close to Naruto's parents, thus making him care for Naruto very much. He was nothing like the others in the village. Yes, Itachi. He is a very talented boy and is quite strong too. He even graduated from the academy at the age of 7, being considered a prodigy among our shinobi. He recently joined Umbu, the youngest to ever achieve the ranks of Umbu. Naruto's eyes were wide at the information his Gigi was giving him. He was pretty sure he wasn't supposed to know of Itachi's rank and status. Graduating from the academy at the young age of 7, and being the youngest Umbu operative. He was impressed. Faintly, he wondered if he, too, could graduate at the age of 7. He then quietly mutters to himself, Wow, Itachi-san is really strong. Hiruzen, at hearing him, smiled before saying, Yes, he is. You're also very talented, Naruto-kun. I'm sure you will also achieve great things if you train hard enough. You know me, Gigi. One day I am going to become the Hokage Databeo, Naruto said with a big grin on his face, lighting up his features. Hiruzen also grinned at Naruto, happy that he was happy. I am sure you will. But for now, you should get to bed. It's getting late and I must get going. Hi, Gigi, said Naruto cheerfully. Good night, Naruto-kun. I hope I don't get any more complaints about you ditching classes. Hi, Gigi. I will not be doing anything like that anymore, promise. Naruto said with a small laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. Hiruzen nodded to him with another smile, saying his last goodbyes as he left. Naruto soon sighed before going to collect all his papers that were scattered everywhere, cleaning up the mess that he made before going to bed. Time skip for months. It had been 4 months since Naruto had met Itachi, as well as the day when Hiruzen had scolded him for skipping his classes. On the next day, he came to class where he got scolded again by Iruka for doing something like that. He apologized to Iruka and told him that he won't do it again in the future. He had kept his promise. He also met Itachi next time when he went there for training. They soon started a training schedule. Day by day, his relationship with Itachi had grown. He even started calling him Itachi Nisan, and Itachi was more than happy in allowing Naruto to call him Nisan. Now, he was sitting in class, listening to Iruka, who was teaching a history lesson. Naruto was not paying much attention to him as he already started reading history books from his Gigi's personal library. Though, when Iruka mentioned the name Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, he started paying full attention to Iruka. He wanted to know about the man. As Iruka started telling the students about the 4th Hokage, Naruto was amazed. He never knew that Minato was considered the fastest shinobi to ever live and one of the most powerful men to ever walk the elemental nations. His achievements and his role in the 3rd Great Ninja War amazing him even more. Naruto was amazed, though hiding it well as he thought about the man and his achievements, how powerful his idol must be. Soon, Iruka went on about how on the 10th of October, the Kyuubi attacked the village and how no one was able to stop it until the 4th Hokage arrived on the battlefield to face of the Kyuubi, sacrificing his life to defeat and kill the said Bijou. Naruto was confused by the story, not understanding one bit as he had read the book on the 1st Hokage's history and his fight with the Kyuubi and Madara Uchiha at the Valley of the End. It was written in the book that the Bijou can't be killed. He raised his hand to get Iruka's attention, curious. Iruka, at seeing Naruto's raised his arm, motions for him to speak. Yes, Naruto, do you have a question? Hi, Iruka-sensei, Naruto said, standing up. What it is? Iruka asks. Iruka-sensei, you said that the 4th Hokage killed the Kyuubi by sacrificing his life, but how is that possible? I have read a book on the history of the 1st Hokage, which was in the Hokage's office, and it clearly said that you can't kill a Bijou. Naruto said, still confused and curious. Now with his questioning, the whole class started to pay close attention because they didn't know anything about this. One of the students asked Naruto a question. What are you saying, Uzumaki? Are you doubting our 4th Hokage's power in killing the Kyuubi? Some students whispered, agreeing with the boy. What or why you saying, Naruto? Iruka asked Naruto. He hadn't expected anything like this to happen. Naruto started again, now determined as he saw his sensei stutter. I'm not doubting our 4th Hokage's power. I was just asking. What I had read in the book was that during the battle between the 1st Hokage, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha at the Valley of the End, Madara Uchiha summoned the Kyuubi and controlled it with his Sharingan to assist him in the battle against Hashirama-sama. However, with his power of wood release, Hashirama-sama was able to defeat the Kyuubi and Madara, but he didn't kill the Bijou because it was impossible. After his battle with Madara Uchiha, he started collecting all the Bijou, one tail to the 9 tails, and decided to give said Bijou to the other great nations to maintain the balance of power. The Sand Village has the 1 tails, the Cloud Village has the 8 tails and 2 tails, the Stone Village has the 4 tails and 5 tails, the Mist Village has the 3 tails and 6 tails, as a sign of peace and to maintain balance and power. One of the remaining 7 tails was given to the Waterfall Village as a peace treaty because of the assassination attempted on the 1st Hokage's life. The whole class was speechless and wide-eyed. They didn't know any of this at all. Some were wondering how the hell Naruto got his hands on this kind of information, but that was a mystery to them. To think this kind of thing happened in the past. It wasn't only the students, as Iruka himself was speechless. He didn't expect any of this, but he listened to Naruto as he continued. What I don't understand is that there was no mention of the Kyuubi in the book at all. However, if the 1st Hokage was giving the other tailed beasts to the other great nations for a balance of power, then why didn't it mention anything about the Hidden Leaf Village also getting one? I mean, How could there be balance if one village was without the power of a bijou while the other villages were? What happened to the Kyubi after the fight at the Valley of the End? There was no mention of the Kyubi after the fight until the 10th of October. As Naruto finished, the whole class was silent, no one knowing what to say. The students were processing the information Naruto told them. Iruka, on the other hand, was sweating bullets as he didn't expect this history lesson to turn out like this. Now what was he supposed to say to Naruto? That he was used on the Kyubi's attack to seal the bijou by the fourth Hokage? That he contained the nine-tailed fox inside himself? No, the Hokage would kill him. The whole class was waiting for his answer, curious about what he had to say. Though, with the way Naruto was eyeing him, he lost his voice to speak and was slightly intimidated, thinking about what he was supposed to do now. Luckily, the school bell started ringing, ending the class. Iruka let out a near-silent sigh as he started collecting the papers and books on his desk and said without meeting any of the students' eyes, "Well, I think that is it for today. We will meet here again tomorrow. Please do your homework and enjoy the rest of the day, everyone." With that, he exited the classroom, lowering his eyes away from Naruto. Naruto, on the other hand, narrowed his eyes, not liking his question being ignored. He was started to get annoyed by all the secrecy and was getting suspicious as everyone avoided talking about the Kyubi's attack. He decided to get his answers later and exited the classroom, not minding as the whole class staring at his disappearing back. Hokage's office. The sun was shining brightly in the sky, signifying the time being noon. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage, was sitting in his office with three elders. One was an old woman, while the other two were old-looking men. They were also his former teammates, now turned his advisors. They were discussing a few lax matters when suddenly, they heard a knock on the door. Seeing that they were almost finished with their meeting, Hiruzen spoke. "Come in." The door opened, and Iruka walked in the office. Upon noticing the village elders with the Hokage, he quickly bowed and said, "Hokage-sama, elders, I apologize for interrupting. I will come some other time if you're still busy." Hiruzen shook his head. "It's quite all right, Iruka. We were almost finished with our discussion anyway. What brings you here in my office today?" "I wanted to discuss with you about one of my students in the academy, Hokage-sama," Iruka stated. Hiruzen looked at Iruka with a raised eyebrow, wondering what was so important that an academy teacher had come to him regarding one of the academy's students to discuss about. That was unless the student was Naruto Uzumaki. "Who might this student be, Iruka?" Hiruzen asked, inwardly hoping that Iruka doesn't bring up Naruto's name. "It's Naruto Uzumaki, Hokage-sama," Iruka responded, not seeing the hidden problem. Now that got the attention of the elders, especially Danzo Shimura, because he had tried several times for Naruto Uzumaki to be handed over to him for his training so that he could mold him like a perfect shinobi. A weapon for the sake of the village, he was always denied by the third Hokage though. Hiruzen could easily read Danzo's face. He wanted to avoid any discussion about Naruto in front of him because of his interest in Naruto, but he realized that he couldn't just tell them to leave as it would lead to a pointless argument in a complicated situation. Hiruzen signed and looked at Iruka, asking, "What about him? Did he do something now?" "Yes, no, I mean no, Hokage-sama. It's just that I don't know how to handle him." Iruka answered nervously. He didn't really know how to explain to the Hokage about what happened during today's class. Hiruzen looked at Iruka with narrowed eyes and questioned him again. "What do you mean you can't handle him, Iruka? Say it clearly so that I can understand your situation." Hiruzen knew that Iruka doesn't have any negative views regarding Naruto, unlike some other people in the village. He himself had made it clear with Iruka before the start of the academy. That time, Iruka had ensured him that he didn't hold anything against Naruto and knew how difficult his life would be without any support of family or friends. He couldn't understand now what could be the problem with Iruka, unless it has to be something else. He looked at Iruka with narrowed eyes, telling him to explain everything. Iruka saw the Hokage's look and understood the signal immediately. He quickly starts explaining. "During today's lecture, I was teaching the class about the history and past of the fourth Hokage. Everything was going like normal until it came to the part about the Kyubi attack when I finished telling the class that the fourth Hokage died killing the nine-tailed fox." Hiruzen and elders saw where this was going. As it was, The third Hokage's law was that the young generation didn't need to be told the full truth behind the Kyuubi attack, so that Naruto could live a normal life, making friends among his age. Hiruzen knew that Naruto himself didn't know the truth about him being the Jinchuriki of said beast. It was being kept a secret from him and the younger generation, as Hiruzen forbid the people forever mentioning about Nine-Tails Fox being sealed inside Naruto. The three elders were also aware of Naruto, keeping a close look on Naruto's progress. For now, they decided to watch quietly from their sitting places. Hiruzen looked at Iruka, motioning for him to continue. After I finished, Naruto asked me on how the fourth Hokage killed the Kyuubi, when the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, couldn't kill the beast during his fight against the Kyuubi and Madara Uchiha at the Valley of the End. That's not all, Hokage-sama. He also spoke that, after the fight at the Valley of the End, that first Hokage collected all the 9 bijou and gave 8 bijous to the other great nations in the form of friendship to maintain the balance of power. Hiruzen and the three elders were shocked at hearing this. Even Danzo, who normally didn't show much emotion on his face, couldn't help himself this time. They never expected this from any academy student, but they listened to Iruka as he continued. That's not all, Hokage-sama. After this, he asked me why didn't the Leaf Village get any bijou. If the first Hokage was giving the bijou to the other nations to maintain balance and power, then Konoha must have kept one for itself. He also asked why the name of the nine-tailed fox was never mentioned anywhere until the day said bijou suddenly attacked the village on October 10th. Iruka finished his explaining. The Hokage and the elders knew that this was a dangerous situation that they were in with Naruto. They couldn't tell Naruto that he was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. More importantly, that the Kyuubi was always in the village after the fight at the Valley of the End. As the first Hokage's wife, Mito Uzumaki, sealed the Kyuubi in herself so it could not bring any harm to others. The whole truth was being kept a secret from the general populace of the village. Only a few selected people know the full truth. Koharu Udatane, who was sitting next to Hiruzen's left, was an old woman. Her hair was pulled back in a twin bun, locked in place by Sanbon. Like her outfit, she wore a simple long-sleeved kimono, closed by an obi, a jacket and sash over it. She looked at Hiruzen. What are you going to do about this, Hiruzen? It's a serious matter. How did he even get his hands on this information in the first place? Hiruzen, who was deep in thought, didn't respond to her as he was thinking about everything Iruka brought up. He knew that Naruto was a very smart and matured kid for his age. One day, he would have to tell him the truth, but Naruto wasn't ready to know the truth yet. Hokage-sama, Iruka spoke, getting his attention. Snapping out of his thoughts, he looked at Iruka before asking, Iruka, did he tell you where he got this information? Hi, Hokage-sama. He said that he read an old book on Hashirama Senju's history from your personal library, Iruka responded. He was worried about what this meant for Naruto. Hiruzen mentally cursed his luck, rubbing his forehead in slight frustration. He should have known. That brat, always curious about things. With his interest in the previous Hokage's lives, he had allowed Naruto to read the books from his personal library. It seems that was a bad decision on his part. The elders looked at him before Danzo stated, You are getting careless, Hiruzen, allowing the Uzumaki boy to read from your personal library. You know that there can be some sensitive information that shouldn't be known to the others, let alone a kid. Hiruzen sighed and looked at Iruka. What did you say to him, Iruka? I didn't answer anything, Hokage-sama. Luckily, the bell rang and I left the class. Iruka answered Hiruzen. That's good. I'll talk to Naruto myself. You don't have to do anything, Iruka. Just continue your classes as it is. Hiruzen informed him. Hi, Hokage-sama, Iruka said. Hiruzen nodded to Iruka, silently dismissing him. Iruka bowed to him and left the office. Now, Hiruzen was left alone with his advisors. He knew what was coming up, so he mentally prepared for it. You should hand over the Jinchuriki to me, Hiruzen. I will train him to be a loyal shinobi of the Leaf Village. Then we will have the perfect weapon against the other nations, stated Danzo. I will be doing no such thing to Naruto. Don't take me for a fool, Danzo. I know you only want him because you want his power. I will make this clear. Danzo, Naruto will be a shinobi under my command, a Leaf Shinobi. not some emotionless drone that you want him to be. Do you understand? Hiruzen said with narrowed eyes, his voice deadly. It would be the best option, in my opinion, letting Danzo take care of Naruto. Hiruzen spoke Hamura, who was quiet until now. Koharu also nodded, agreeing with him. I didn't ask for any of your opinions on the matter. You three are only here for advising me, not to command me. This conversation is over. Dismissed. Hiruzen stated with a commanding tone. They tried to argue with him, but Hiruzen didn't listen to them. I said dismissed. I have work to do, Hiruzen stated angrily, as he was starting to lose his patience with them. The elders left quickly after that, knowing that they couldn't argue with him now. Danzo was gritting his teeth as he was once again denied by the Hokage for taking Naruto under his command. He believed that Naruto should be trained to become a weapon for the village for their safety and power. Before he was out the door, Hiruzen stopped him. Danzo, get this through your head. If you make any kind of move on Naruto or try to make contact with him, I will execute you. Understood, he warned Danzo. Danzo tightened his fists but nodded. I understand, Hiruzen. He left, leaving Hiruzen alone in the office. Hiruzen rubbed his temples in frustration. I am getting too old for this. With Naruto. Naruto was meditating, sitting under a tree, trying to calm his mind. What happened during class was still on his mind. He couldn't understand why the academy was trying to hide some of the past events, more importantly about the nine-tailed fox from the students. He was so caught up in his thoughts that he didn't feel another person entering the field. Not until the person spoke to get his attention. Naruto-kun. Naruto, recognizing the voice, opened his eyes and looked at the person. He smiled. Itachi-ni-san, when did you get here? Just a moment ago, Naruto-kun. Itachi responded. Just by looking at Naruto's face, Itachi knew that he was thinking something that was bothering him. Mainly, it was because Naruto was sitting still that gave it away he was bothered. He never sat ideally just to meditate. Something on your mind, Naruto-kun? Naruto knew that he could trust Itachi and share anything with him as he had become like a big brother figure to him. Naruto nodded with a sigh and spoke. It was during today's lecture in the academy that Irika-sensei said something in class that I don't understand. Why would he teach wrong information about the past? When I questioned him, he didn't answer any of my questions. Itachi was wondering what Irika was teaching them about that got Naruto so worked up, as well as why Naruto would say that it was the wrong information. He looked at Naruto, voicing his thoughts. What were they teaching you about, and why would you say that they were telling was wrong information? Naruto huffed before he went on explaining what happened during class. That they were teaching about shinobi history and some of the achievements of the fourth Hokage. Then the whole thing about Kyuubi came up and that it was killed by the fourth Hokage. He then went on telling him about what he read in a book on the first Hokage, that Bijou couldn't be killed, and about the first Hokage distributing the Bijou to the other nations. As Itachi continued to listen to him, he started getting nervous, thinking about what he could tell him. He can't tell Naruto that the fox was sealed inside of him by the fourth. Naruto was still too young to know the truth. He also knew that Naruto was very smart, so if he was told anything about the Kyuubi attack, because if anything caught Naruto's attention, there was no stopping Naruto from asking questions until he was satisfied. He had to be careful from saying any unnecessary stuff from now on. The events you are speaking of are too old, Naruto-kun, and should remain in the past. There were some reasons for those events to be kept hidden from the general populace. Today's generation doesn't need to know about those events, Itachi stated calmly. Naruto was annoyed that the village was keeping this important information hidden from his generation. He questioned him on it. Why the hell can't we know the truth? I mean, we are upcoming shinobi of the village. Shouldn't they tell us about the events that occurred in the past? Itachi sighed lightly, looking at him. You have a good point, Naruto-kun, but you have to understand that the times we live in today are far different from the times in the past. These are the times of peace, not war, where children were forced to grow up early because of the circumstances. The village is just trying for the children to live free lives like they should have before they become shinobi. Naruto nodded towards Itachi, but still didn't agree with him. Itachi, at seeing this, continued on. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. You will know the truth when the time comes. It's all right. I understand, Nisan, Naruto responded quietly. Itachi, reading Naruto's face, decided to distract him from thinking too hard on it, so he instead asked, "So, how's your training going?" Naruto looked back up at him and answered, "It's going alright, I think, but I'm still having problems with the clone technique. I have completed the chakra control exercise, but still, I can't get my chakra control up to the level to perform a proper clone. Don't waste too much of your time on a single technique. That will be no good in a fight for you. It requires very little chakra concentration to do the technique. You, on the other hand, have too much chakra for a technique like that," Itachi stated. "What do you mean, Nisan? It is one of the 3 techniques you have to know to pass the academy, isn't it?" Naruto asked, not fully understanding what Itachi was trying to say. "The normal clone jutsu can easily be identified by the opponent. It will be no good in a real fight, so don't waste your time on it," Itachi responded to him. Naruto wondered, "But it's still one of the 3 techniques to graduate the academy. If I don't learn the clone jutsu, how am I going to pass the academy?" Itachi calmly responded back, "Because I'm going to teach you a different and more advanced version of a clone jutsu." "What jutsu you're going to teach me?" Naruto asked eagerly, leaning in slightly. "I am going to teach you the Shadow Clone Jutsu. It's a Jounin-level jutsu, the advanced version of a normal clone jutsu," Itachi answered him. "What makes it so different from a normal clone jutsu?" questioned Naruto. Itachi decided to show the jutsu to him instead of answering. He performed necessary hand seals to concentrate his chakra into before he called the jutsu name, Shadow Clone Jutsu. He created 4 identical clones of himself before looking back at Naruto. He then starts explaining, "You see, Naruto-kun, it's called the Shadow Clone Jutsu, and it's not some kind of illusion. It's an actual replica of myself that I created by distributing my chakra equally among the others. They can even be used in combat as they can perform jutsu, which gives you an advantage in a fight. Your opponent will have a hard time identifying the real one among the clones, which will confuse them. Even with the Byakugan and Sharingan, it is impossible to identify the real one. It has many more advantages though, not just what I have listed." Naruto nodded in understanding. He was amazed by the jutsu, which seems to make a replica of you, being able to do whatever you could do. Itachi then showed Naruto the hand signs for the jutsu, explaining how it works. When you perform the jutsu, you make the necessary hand signs and concentrate your chakra in your body to split the chakra equally among your clones. The more chakra you use, the stronger your jutsu will be, but keep in mind that the clones will dispel by 1 or 2 solid hits in a fight, understood? Naruto nodded at this, so Itachi continued. "Since I showed and explained to you on how to perform the Shadow Clone Jutsu, I want you to try to perform it. Don't try to rush into it. Just keep your head calm, alright?" Naruto nodded. "Alright." He then made the hand signs for the jutsu, calling out its name, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Nothing happened, so he tried a couple more times, but still couldn't make a single clone. Itachi, who was watching him from the side, spoke up. "Don't worry, Naruto-kun, you will get it in time. You just need to practice a little, so keep it up, alright?" Naruto nodded in his direction before continuing with his training. After a couple of hours, Naruto had perfectly performed the Shadow Clone Jutsu, as he was able to make up to 10 clones of himself because of his large chakra capacity. It did leave him tired out for trying so many times though. Right now, he was looking at his clones with a satisfied look on his face, happy for learning such a high-level technique. Itachi, who was watching him from the side still, was also very satisfied with his progress. He was quite surprised by how fast Naruto was able to master the technique. He really didn't expect him to learn it so fast. Itachi commented Naruto with a small smile. "You did well, Naruto-kun. I didn't expect you to learn it so quickly." "Thanks, Nisan," Naruto responded to his compliment. "You still have to keep practicing the jutsu until you can make the number of clones you want. You're still wasting your chakra unnecessarily if you're not in control of your jutsu, alright?" stated Itachi. Naruto replied with a simple hi. "For now, I want one of your clones to go with my clone into the forest, then we'll see what happens." He then made a single clone of himself. Itachi's clone then took one of Naruto's clones into the forest with him. Naruto, on the other hand, was unable to understand what Itachi was trying to accomplish by doing that. He dispelled his other clones and decided to watch what happens quietly. After a couple of minutes, Itachi looked at Naruto's shocked face, still not knowing what happened in the forest, but realized a moment later of what transpired. Do you know what happened in the forest? Naruto was still in shock, but he still replied, Your clone killed my clone by stabbing him with a kunai. Itachi nodded at his answer before Naruto came to the realization. Wait a minute. How do I know what happened in the forest with the clone? It was like I was there experiencing myself being stabbed by a kunai. He asked in confusion, not understanding how it was possible. Itachi, seeing his confused face, started explaining it to him. It is one of the advantages you get from using the shadow clones. When my clone stabbed your clone in the back, it was dispelled, transferring all of its memories back to the original. That is why you know what happened back there. The shadow clones are ideal for spying since the user can simply send a clone to spy on a target before having the clone disperse itself to pass the information back to the original. Wow. Hey, does that mean whatever jutsu the clone learns, it can also be transferred back to the original? Naruto asked eagerly. He was amazed by learning about the memory transfer part of the clone. Yes, it is possible, Itachi replied him with hidden amusement. Then can I use the clones in training to learn jutsu? He asked with an excited smile. Itachi looked at Naruto for a moment, then spoke. No, you're not going to use clones in that way. Huh? But why? Naruto asked, dropping the smile on his face. The shadow clone jutsu is a forbidden technique for a reason. Not many people can perform this technique. You're only able to perform the jutsu without killing yourself because of your large chakra reserves, stated Itachi. Naruto still couldn't understand what Itachi was trying to say, so he asked, But you said it yourself. I have a large chakra capacity, so it would be helpful for me if I used the clones for training. You have to understand, Naruto-kun, your chakra coils and body are still in the development phase. All the clones' memories can put too much of stress on your mind. It can hinder your development and can affect your body in a negative way. Maybe in time you can use the clones for a training purpose when your chakra coils are fully developed, but not now. He answered Naruto calmly. All right, I understand, Nisan. Naruto nodded in understanding, still a little disgruntled. Don't worry, Naruto-kun, you're progressing very quickly. You are way ahead in comparison to the other kids your age. While it's understandable that you want to become strong, but you should also be aware of your limitations, Itachi stated. Hi. You don't have to lecture me about this time, Nisan. You are starting to make a habit of it nowadays, I think. Naruto responded with arms folded. Itachi's eyebrow twitches at hearing Naruto say that, but he composed himself quickly and spoke. Whatever, you get my point. I should get going now. I have to get ready for my mission tonight. Naruto nodded. All right, I'm going to stay for a bit longer and continue with training. Itachi nodded before he smiles, calling Naruto over. Naruto, with a confused look, walked up to him. As he came near, Itachi poked his forehead with 2 fingers. Naruto stumbled backward a little, rubbing his forehead, and glared in Itachi's direction, but he had already left in a shunshin, leaving him alone. He was fuming inwardly. Stupid Itachi. 6 months later. A lot had happened in the past 6 months with Naruto. He continued to progress at very impressive speed as he quickly mastered the shadow clone jutsu to the level where he can control the number of clones he wanted. He also started interrogating his clones into his fighting style using a tanto. Itachi had gifted him the tanto on his 7th birthday, later teaching him how to use it in battle. His bond with Itachi kept getting deeper in that time, leading him to meet one of Itachi's closest friends, Shisui Uchiha, when he started joining them in training. He became quite close to Shisui as well. He also had a long talk with his surrogate grandfather, the 3rd Hokage, about the whole incident that happened in the classroom with Iruka. The Hokage had told him that he was still too young to know the sensitive information, but he promised him that he would tell him the truth when the time comes. Now, we find Naruto in a sparring match against Itachi, both the fighters standing on the opposite edges of the training grounds as they stared into each other's eyes. A small leaf was floating in the light wind in the middle of the field. Both sets of eyes observed its decadence towards the ground. The moment the leaf made contact with the grass, both the fighters shot forward with genin-level speeds. Naruto, once reaching Itachi, tried to deliver a punch straight in the stomach of the Uchiha as he used his left leg as a support to drive the sucker punch into the abdomen of his opponent. Itachi, seeing the punch coming, twisted his body sideways to let it pass harmlessly. He quickly spun around on his right heel and scored his own punch onto Naruto's left cheek, pushing the blonde backward a little. Naruto, though, was quick to regain his footing lest he risks banging his head on the ground. Quickly running toward Naruto, Itachi never gave him a fraction of a second to regain his balance as he continued his assault on the academy student. He used his elbows, punches, slaps, and all sorts of attacks to make Naruto understand his mistakes and identify his errors in his defense. This continued on for a few minutes when suddenly, Naruto raised his right knee upwards to block a left hook from Itachi. Itachi was a little surprised at the sudden change in tactics, but decided to go with the flow to allow Naruto some leverage as the younger of the two. He smashed his forearm into Naruto's shin as Naruto used his left hand to grasp Itachi's right fist in a metal grip. Now, both of Itachi's hands were busy overpowering Naruto while Naruto had his right hand free to attack Itachi on his exposed chest. Deciding to do just that, Naruto reared back his fist, as if charging chakra in it, before moving his fist at lightning speed towards Itachi to deal the damage. At the last moment, right before it hit, Itachi gave up the pushing contest and jumped backward while delivering a high kick to Naruto's chin, succeeding in lifting the blonde up into the air. Naruto soon crashed to the ground as Itachi landed on his feet, the look of surprise evident on his face. He contemplated how to deal with this new Naruto, who could change a tactical disadvantage into a great opportunity in battle. Itachi had to admit that Naruto was progressing at a remarkable speed. Even though he was not going all out against Naruto, he was still able to stand up to him at this level for this long. It was quite impressive for an academy student, making him was beyond satisfied at seeing Naruto's progress. Itachi decided to finish the spar with a final move as he continued his assault on Naruto with his taijutsu. Naruto tried to block as many as he could, but it was getting difficult for him as now Itachi was taking him seriously, increasing his speed considerably. Unknown to Naruto, Itachi was not doing it intentionally. His attacks had started to get slowly faster. He then kicked Naruto hard, sending him speeding backward and forcing him to lose his balance. Itachi quickly launched a couple of shuriken in Naruto's direction, but suddenly realized his mistake. He knew that Naruto was still out of balance and wouldn't be able to move in time to block them. Itachi quickly dashed forward to save Naruto. As the shuriken came near him, Naruto realized that he won't be able to block them in time, seeing as he was still unbalanced. He was helpless. Time started to slow down in front of him, making it easier for him to see the shuriken flying in slow motion towards him. Taking advantage of this, he quickly unsheathed the tanto from his back and threw it in front of him, hitting the shuriken in midair, pinning them to a nearby tree. When Itachi got to him, he gets the shock of his lifetime, as instead of Naruto's normally blue eyes, they were red-colored eyes with two tomo in his left eye and a single tomo in his right eye. What the? He couldn't believe what he was seeing. How was it possible for Naruto to awaken the eyes of the Uchiha clan, the Sharingan? He thought, still in shock. He knew that Naruto was not from the Uchiha clan, and neither were Naruto's parents. Then the question that was raised was, how did he awaken the Sharingan? As Naruto started to collapse, he quickly caught him in his arms and checked for any serious injuries. Seeing no injuries, he assured himself that nothing serious had happened to Naruto. After finishing that, he places Naruto on his back and quickly started to move in the direction where he hoped he could get his answers. Disclaimer: I don't know Naruto or any of its characters, Kishimoto does. As Itachi jumped across the roofs to get to his destination, he carried Naruto piggyback style. He was still trying to get his thoughts straight, but was having a hard time doing it. Those red eyes, with two tomo in one eye and a single tomo in the other, looking directly at him. As far as he knew, neither of Naruto's parents belonged to the Uchiha clan. Could it be that one of them was somehow connected to it? He felt Naruto starting to wake up and looked at him on his back as he sighed in relief. The boy's eyes were once again back to their normal blue. He must be pretty exhausted since it was the first time activating his Sharingan, Itachi thought as he watched Naruto rubbing his eyes. "You alright, Naruto-kun?" Itachi asked in concern. Naruto quickly replied, I'm feeling all right now, but I don't remember clearly what happened. One moment I was feeling helpless seeing those shuriken coming towards me, and then I suddenly started feeling this burning in my eyes. Then everything started slowing down in front of my eyes, and I could see the shuriken coming towards me in slow motion. I don't remember much after that. Don't think too much, Naruto-kun. Just rest for now, and I promise I'll explain everything later. Itachi assured him, but he inwardly wondered what he would say. Yeah, I'll explain everything when I myself understand what happened exactly and how you awakened the Sharingan. Naruto nodded tiredly, but then asked Itachi, his face looking confused. Where are we going, Nisan? We're going to the Hokage's office. I have some important thing to discuss with him. Itachi noticed Naruto's confused look. I'll answer all your questions there, Naruto. You just rest for now. Naruto nodded and rested his head on Itachi's shoulder as he closed his eyes. Itachi smiled and picked up his pace to reach his destination. Hokage Tower. Itachi arrived at the Hokage Tower with Naruto on his back and quickly ran up the stairs towards the Hokage's office. He reached for the door to knock a couple of times. Come in, a voice said from the other side of the door. Upon opening the door, Itachi was greeted with the sight of the Hokage, Hiruzen Tsurutobi, calmly sitting in his chair and smoking a pipe. Hiruzen looked at Itachi, and when he noticed Naruto resting on his back, a serious look crossed his face. What happened, Itachi? Is Naruto all right? Itachi could tell by the look on the Hokage's face that he was concerned about the boy. The Hokage not only knew everything about Naruto and his parents, but he also saw Naruto as his own grandson. Itachi was positive Hiruzen was the only one who could give him the answers he had come for. Itachi spoke. Naruto is fine, Hokage-sama. He's only exhausted from sparring. Naruto nodded in confirmation and released his hold on Itachi so he could stand on his own. Itachi continued. But something happened during our spar, Hokage-sama. What happened, Itachi? Hiruzen asked. I was hoping that I could speak with you in private. It's something sensitive. Itachi didn't want others to know about Naruto's Sharingan, especially not the Uchiha clan. They would go to any lengths to get Naruto under their control, and that would not end well for anyone. Hiruzen signaled to the hidden Umbu Black Ops to leave the office and activated the privacy seal on the doors and windows. He then looked at Itachi seriously. Now tell me what happened, Itachi. His voice had the tone of authority. Itachi nodded at him, then looked at Naruto, who had a confused look on face. Naruto-kun, would you please try to channel some chakra in your eyes? But why, Nisan? Just do what I said, Naruto. You will get your answers soon. Itachi responded calmly. He wondered if Hiruzen had guessed where all this was going. Naruto nodded a moment later and closed his eyes. As he channeled some chakra into them, he could feel a little pain, but moments later he could feel something different. The pain was gone, and in its place he felt power flowing there. When Naruto opened his eyes, gone was their normal blue, replaced by two glowing red orbs. Two Tomo showed in his left eye, and Itachi could see two Tomo in the right one too, before a shock of Naruto's blonde hair covered it. Itachi noticed the Hokage's face, but didn't see the shocked expression he had expected. Instead, Hiruzen was staring at Naruto calmly. The look confirmed his suspicions that the Hokage already knew something about this and could give Itachi answers. Hiruzen walked up to Naruto and knelt down to his level to move the bangs from his face, getting a good look at his eyes. Well, I expected this to happen someday, but not this soon. Itachi was confused. What do you mean, Hokage-sama? I don't understand. As far as I know, neither of Naruto's parents have it. So how could Naruto awaken those eyes? No, you're wrong, Itachi. Hiruzen started, but was interrupted by Naruto. Would you tell me what you're talking about? He spoke in an annoyed tone. Hiruzen took out one of his kunai, which had been polished to a mirror-like sheen, and held it before Naruto's eyes. Take a look for yourself, Naruto. Naruto looked into the reflective steel of the kunai, and his face registered surprise. What is this? How is it possible? He stammered, his voice full of shock. He then looked at Itachi with narrowed eyes. You know who my parents were, and that neither of them had it? I need you to give me answers. Now. Itachi felt uncomfortable, but responded. Yes, I know who your parents were, and as far as you having the Sharingan, I don't have an answer myself. That is why we came here. Itachi saw Naruto clench his jaw and tighten his fist, and could hear the anger in his voice as he responded. You both knew from the start about my parents and never bothered to tell me about them. Why? Tears suddenly began to fall from his eyes. Hiruzen himself looked uncomfortable, and Itachi wondered how the Hokage would break the news to Naruto. If he told Naruto about his parents, then he would also have to tell him about the Kyuubi, and Itachi wondered whether Hiruzen believed Naruto was ready to know the truth or not. I am sorry, Naruto-kun. It's not Itachi's fault that he didn't tell you about your parents. It's because I ordered those who know their identity to keep it hidden from everyone and also from you. I'm really sorry, Naruto-kun. I am just trying to protect you and the village. Naruto glared at him furiously and stated, Trying to protect me from what, huh? I sometimes question myself who my parents were, if they loved me or just left me on my own in this village. You don't understand how it feels to walk the streets where people glare at you with nothing but hate in their eyes, and to be called names like demon or monster and kicked out of stores for just trying to buy something. Itachi tightened his fists and looked away in shame for not being there for Naruto. He didn't have the courage to face him. He could tell by Hiruzen's face that he too was cursing the villagers for disrespecting the fourth Hokage's wish for Naruto to be seen as a hero. The Hokage tried to calm Naruto down as he put a hand on his shoulder. I understand what you feel, Naruto-kun. But he was once again interrupted as Naruto swapped away his arm. Naruto's glare hardened on him, and he continued. No, you don't understand anything. I always watch fathers picking up their kids from the park and how they walked with their kids holding hands, and I always wanted to experience that. I wanted to feel my father holding my hand like that, and when I walked the streets with you that first time you held my hand while walking, and I felt happy that time, because that time I realized what it felt like. You're the closest person I have who's close to a father or grandfather, and now I realize you've been lying to me my whole life. He finished as tears continued flowing from his eyes. Hiruzen did nothing other than look down in shame. He realized how much he had failed Naruto by breaking his trust in him. He was scared now, wondering what Naruto would do when he learned the whole truth about his parents and about being the Kyuubi container. Would Naruto hate him? More importantly, would Naruto hate his own parents for what they did that night by sealing the beast in their own child? But he didn't have any other choice but to tell him the truth, and he would try to explain as best he could. He was glad at least Itachi was here to help him out. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I really am. Hiruzen stated with guilt in his eyes. Why don't you settle down comfortably? I promise you, I will tell you everything. Naruto composed himself a little and spoke. All right, tell me everything and don't leave anything out. I promise, but please don't interrupt me. I will answer all your questions at the end, all right? Hiruzen then looked at Itachi, who nodded in support, then turned his attention back to Naruto and started. As you know, Naruto, on the day of your birth the Leaf Village was attacked by the Kyuubi no Kitsune and no one was able to stop the beast. Many shinobi and civilians lost their lives that day. Until, as you know, the fourth Hokage stopped the Bijou by sacrificing his life. I arrived with a couple of shinobi on the battlefield where the fourth teleported the Kyuubi with him. There I found the bodies of the fourth Hokage with his wife, both impaled by the Kyuubi's claw. They had put themselves in front of it trying to protect something. It was then that we noticed the baby no older than a few hours, laying in front of them. It was you, Naruto-kun. Naruto appeared shocked as he listened to the Hokage, and Hiruzen was sure that many questions were coming to his head and was glad he didn't have the voice to ask anything. He noticed Naruto's shocked look and stopped himself from continuing. He didn't want to tell him anything more, but he knew that he had to go on. He hoped that after knowing the truth, Naruto would remain the same loving and gentle person. Itachi placed a hand on the boy's shoulder to show his support, but Naruto didn't acknowledge the gesture. How? W hat or why you saying G-chan? How is it P possible? Naruto asked in shock, and Itachi gently squeezed his shoulder. We weren't able to hear anything or go to them because of the barrier the fourth Hokage's wife put around them, preventing the Kyuubi from escaping, but we know what was happening in there. As you know, Naruto, the Bijou can't be killed, so the only thing the fourth Hokage could do to stop the Bijou was to seal it away. He used a self-sacrificing sealing jutsu to seal it in a newborn baby whose chakra coils weren't developed. That baby was you, Naruto-kun. After the sealing process, the barrier dissolved, allowing us to move in, and when we got there they were barely alive. The fourth Hokage's last wish was for you to be seen as a hero for protecting the village. His wife spoke your name on her dying breath. Hiruzen looked at Naruto to see his reaction. Naruto was so shocked after Hiruzen told him that he was the one used for the sealing that he couldn't say anything as his whole brain went blank. He then came to, and remembering all the hateful glares and being called monster and demon behind his back, he began to cry again. Itachi was also having a hard time controlling his emotions as memories of his time with Minato and Kushina came rushing to him. But he controlled himself, as he had to show his support to Naruto. Reaching out, he hugged Naruto and tried to calm him. Naruto put a hand on his stomach where he had seen the seal many times while channeling chakra. He had always wondered what it was, but never paid too much attention to it. Now he knew. He looked at the Hokage with puffy eyes. Why me? Why did they choose me? Where were my parents that time? Did they give me away to the fourth for him to use me? Did they think of me as some kind of monster like many in the village think? Hiruzen felt terrible for Naruto, and at the same time cursed the villagers for what they had done to an innocent child. But he also smiled a little at Naruto and answered, "Your parents didn't hate you, Naruto-kun. I had never seen your parents so happy as when they got the news of your arriving. They couldn't stop smiling, and as for why the fourth and his wife chose you for the sealing, they knew the meaning of sacrifice and couldn't ask anyone else to sacrifice their child, so they used their own baby boy who was born only hours before." Naruto's eyes widened. Never had he expected to be the son of the fourth Hokage. The fourth was his own ideal, the one he wanted to surpass in order to become the strongest Hokage. He smiled a very small smile as he thought of his parents and realized he had been wanted and loved by his mother and father. Itachi and Hiruzen both felt a little relaxed seeing him smile and were thankful that Naruto was taking the news calmly. He didn't seem to show any kind of dislike or hate towards his father and mother, but for confirmation, Hiruzen asked, "You don't hate them, Naruto, for what they did by sealing the Kyuubi in you, do you?" Naruto shook his head. "How can I hate them? I am sure they didn't have any other solution. You once said to me that being Hokage is not a simple job that anyone can do, and being shinobi means self-sacrifice. Well, my father was not just a shinobi, he was also the Hokage. If the Hokage can't sacrifice anything for his village, then how can he accept other shinobi around him to do the same? And if my Tausen had used any other kid, then I don't think he would have deserved to be called a Hokage and father. I am proud to be his son." Itachi and Hiruzen both were shocked at the level of maturity Naruto showed. Hiruzen was certain that many of the Jounin-level shinobi didn't have this type of thinking, and here was a 7-year-old who was in the second year of his academy showing the mindset of a true shinobi. They smiled at Naruto with pride in their expressions. "I can't describe in words how proud I am of you, Naruto-kun. I am certain if your parents were here with us, they would also feel proud. Just remember that they gave their lives so you could live on. Don't waste it. Make them proud." Hiruzen ruffled Naruto's hair with a proud smile on his face. Ji-chan, you didn't tell me Kachan's name," spoke Naruto, rubbing the back of his neck, realizing he didn't know his mother's name. Hiruzen blinked a couple of times, then laughed a little as he remembered Kushina. "Ah, yes, your mother. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki, and she was the granddaughter of the first Hokage. She was a very kind woman, always smiling and joking, but when she got angry she used to scare the shit out of people, especially your father. Because she had long red hair, people started calling her Red Hot Habanera." He and Itachi both shivered a little at the image of Kushina with fire in her eyes and her red hair waving like the Kyuubi's tails. Naruto laughed a little, imagining his father the strongest shinobi who ever lived with a scared face because of his mother. But he was also shocked about knowing that he was also the great-grandson of the first Hokage. Hiruzen's heart melted a little seeing Naruto laugh, thinking how much happiness suited his face. He couldn't help but see both Minato and Kushina in him. Hiruzen went over to his desk, opened a drawer, and took out a photo frame from inside. He then walked back to Naruto and showed him the photo. "This is the only photo I have of them in the office right now." Naruto took the frame in his hand and looked at it. It was a picture of Kushina pregnant and smiling with Minato standing behind her with his hand on her stomach and a big grin on his face. Naruto couldn't stop a single tear from falling from his eyes as he looked for the first time at his parents. How beautiful his mother looked, and how happy they both looked together in the photo. They looked so happy and perfect, he said quietly. Hiruzen and Itachi both smiled at him. Then Naruto looked at Hiruzen and asked a question which had been troubling him for some time. Ji-chan, if my father sealed the Kyuubi in me, then why are the instructors in the academy saying that the fourth killed the Kyuubi? Hiruzen sighed and spoke. Because I forbade anyone from ever mentioning the fact that the Kyuubi is sealed in you. I wanted to prevent the younger generation from knowing. Naruto spoke in confusion. But why would you do something like that? Hiruzen looked at Naruto a little longer and then responded. After the attack, the village was in state of panic. After having so many lives lost in the attack and the death of Minato, there was total unrest in the village, and when the emergency meeting was held where I told the council about the Kyuubi sealing, some of the council members demanded your death. I ordered the council not to mention anything about you to the general public, but someone in the council leaked the information about you, and within the next day, half of the village was demanding your death. Seeing all this, I passed the law stating that whoever spoke of the Kyuubi being sealed in you would be sentenced to death without any trial. He sighed and spoke again. I only wanted you to live a normal life and make friends among your age. Naruto looked down after hearing this, feeling bad about how some of villagers treated him. Why didn't they understand that he was just a small child, not a monster or demon? It wasn't his fault that the Kyuubi attacked their village. Hiruzen put a hand on his head to show his support. Don't think about it too much, Naruto-kun. Humans always fear what they don't understand. Naruto smiled a little, thankful for his support, and was glad that he had people like Hiruzen, Itachi, Iruka, and Shisui who cared about him so much. Just you wait, Gigi, he said with determination. A day will come when everyone in the village will respect me and acknowledge me as someone important. This is the village my parents sacrificed everything for and died protecting. I will do the same. I will protect the village till my last breath. Hiruzen smiled at him with pride and said, I don't doubt that. Itachi was relieved that Naruto had taken the news so well and now decided it was time to get them on the topic that he had come here for. He wanted answers. Hokage-sama, all this doesn't explain how Naruto awakened the Sharingan. As you know, neither Kushina Obasan or Minato-sama belong to the Uchiha clan. How is it possible? Obasan, Naruto wondered, but decided to ask him later. He wanted Hiruzen's answer as much as Itachi did. You're wrong on that, Itachi. Minato had very strong ties to the Uchiha clan. Hiruzen responded calmly. Itachi was shocked. What do you mean, Hokage-sama? How is it possible? And if he did, why keep it a secret? Only a few people know about Minato's family lineage and his full history before he came to village. People only know him as a war-orphaned kid, but in reality, he was the grandson of the village's greatest trader, Madara Uchiha. Itachi was shocked to the core and his eyes widened. Madara was the former head of the Uchiha clan and the co-founder of the village Konoha, the strongest Uchiha to ever live and second strongest shinobi of his time after Hashirama Senju. Who would have thought the village's most beloved Hokage, Minato Namikaze, could be the grandson of the most hated shinobi to come out of Konoha? But before Itachi could ask any questions, Naruto spoke. Naruto was also shocked. Madara Uchiha? But how? Why didn't anybody know about it? Naruto's shock made his questions come rapidly. Not many people know today, but when Madara left the village, he also had a 5-year-old son and wife who he had left behind. Hiruzen began. Because of his actions, there were many attempts on their lives from within the clan and from the village. Seeing all this, Hashirama faked their deaths with the help of his brother Tobirama to give them a normal life outside the village. Hiruzen paused, but both Itachi and Naruto were stunned into silence, and Hiruzen continued. They lived outside the village in a nearby town with their fake identities, and both the first and second Hokages kept in contact with them. As the child grew, his hate for the Uchiha clan, and especially for his father, also grew with him. He never became a shinobi and never awakened his Sharingan, though. He was a simple farmer, and in time he married a woman named Mira Namikaze, and they had a son who was named Minato Namikaze. Itachi tried to process this new information. But Hokage-sama, why did Minato-sama come to the village? His parents were both killed during the Second War by some shinobi, and at that time, Minato awakened his Sharingan for the first time. He was only 6 at that time, and his father Izuna, noticing his eyes, told him to go to Konoha and contact Tobirama Senju, the second Hokage. But weren't there people in the village who noticed his eyes? Itachi asked. No, it was a well-kept secret, Hiruzen answered. When Minato met the second Hokage and told him everything, he also said that his father wished for him to not getting involved with the Uchiha clan. Then Tobirama-sensei took Minato under him, and with the help of Mito Uzumaki, he prepared a seal to hide his eyes so no one would discover it. Later, though, Minato told some of his close friends and people he trusted. Wow, this is a lot to take in on one day, Ji-chan, Naruto muttered. I would never have imagined that I could be related to so many strong people. First I learned that I'm the son of the 4th Hokage, and then that I'm the great-grandson of Hashirama Senju, and now that I'm also the great-grandson of Madara Uchiha. That you are, Naruto-kun. But if the news of your heritage becomes known, your life will be in grave danger. There are forces in and outside the village who would be after you if they knew. That is why I kept the identity of your parents hidden. Naruto nodded in understanding. Don't worry, Gigi, I won't tell anyone about it. Then he asked the question which he had wanted to know his whole life. Ji-chan, is there any more of my family out there? Hiruzen smiled at the innocent look on Naruto's face and happily responded. Well, of course there is Naruto. You already know them, or at least have heard of them. They are quite famous now. Your godfather Jiraiya was once my student, and your father's sensei, and your mother's cousin sister Tsunade Senju. Naruto was relieved at hearing he still had a family, but then a fear come across his face. They didn't abandon me, did they? No, Naruto-kun, they could never hate you. They just can't be in the village. Jiraiya runs a spy network for our village and is constantly on the move. He has his duties for the village, but he does ask me about your well-being in every letter he sends me, and he even sends money every month for your expenses. Your toad wallet is a gift from him. Hiruzen's voice was reassuring. Then he sighed, thinking of his other student, and he shook his head a little and continued. As for Tsunade, truthfully, I don't know where she is. She left the village after the 3rd Shinobi War and has only come to the village a couple of times. The last time was to meet your parents. Why? Naruto asked in confusion. She has her reasons. As for why she is not in your life, it's because she doesn't know you're alive. I have tried in the past to get in contact with her, but my attempts always end in failure. She is hard to track down, and I can't have Jiraiya go after her, because he has been on an important mission for a long time. Naruto nodded in understanding, but felt a new loneliness that he couldn't be with his only living family. Itachi, who had remained silent, was still letting the information sink in. He was stunned to learn about the 4th connection to the Uchiha clan and was also worried for Naruto. If the information became known to the others, it would create some serious problems for Naruto. He looked at Hiruzen without emotion. What now, Hiruzen-sama? We can't let the news about Naruto's Sharingan be known to others. How will we protect the information? Hiruzen nodded in seriousness and responded. You're right about that, Itachi. We can't let that happen, but you don't have to worry about that. Just give me a couple of days to find the seal in Minato's notes. He didn't use his Sharingan much, but he kept the notes on the seal safe. After putting the seal on Naruto's eyes, we don't have to worry about anything. Itachi nodded, relieved. Hiruzen turned then to Naruto. Naruto-kun, don't ever tell anyone about what I've told you. Wait until you fully trust a person to keep your secrets hidden, alright? Hi Ji-chan, don't worry, I can keep secrets. Naruto responded. Hiruzen smiled at him, then looked at Itachi. Itachi, make sure no one from the Uchiha clan knows about Naruto possessing the Sharingan. I also leave Naruto to you, so you can train him properly on how to use Sharingan. Itachi nodded and smiled. He would have done that even if the Hokage hadn't told him to. You don't have to tell me, Hokage-sama. I already planned on doing it. Naruto gave him a big grin. I am ready for anything, Misan. Hiruzen and Itachi both laughed at his expression and were glad that Naruto had taken the news calmly. I think that is it for today, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said. You should go rest now and give yourself time to relax. You had a very long day today. Come on, Naruto-kun, I'll drop you at your apartment, Itachi said and went to his knees, showing his back to Naruto for him to climb on. Naruto happily climbed on Itachi's back and tightened his hold on him before waving goodbye to Hiruzen. "I'll see you later, Ji-chan." Hiruzen nodded at him with a smile on his face, and as they retreated, he muttered with a long sigh. "Well, it went pretty well, thank Kami." Then he looked at the portrait of the late fourth Hokage with a faint smile as he became lost in his thoughts. "You will be so proud seeing your son Minato. Both you and Kushina, I'm sure of it. One day he will become a great shinobi and a man, and I will help wherever I can in his journey." Time skipped 2 years later. With Hiruzen. Hiruzen was standing near the window staring out over the village, but his mind was elsewhere, thinking about Naruto and the decision he had made earlier in the day. Naruto had grown excellently in the past 2 years and was performing much better than students his own age. The instructors in the academy considered him a once-in-a-lifetime prodigy and compared him with the likes of Minato Namikaze and Itachi Uchiha from their academy days. The news of him possessing the Sharingan had been kept a secret. Besides himself, only Itachi and Naruto, and now Kakashi and Jiraiya, who had been later informed about it, possessed the knowledge. But that wasn't what was worrying Hiruzen right now. Now he was thinking about the meeting regarding academy results that he had attended this evening with the elders. Flashback. Hiruzen was sitting with his old teammates and some of the instructors of the academy looking over the recent performance of the students. He was satisfied with the results of the students so far, and he looked at Danzo. "Look at Naruto Uzumaki's report card, Hiruzen," Danzo said, handing him the report card and also getting the attention of the others. Hiruzen looked at his report card, and to say he was impressed would be a little thing. Compared with Naruto's results, the other students didn't even stand in the same league. His teammate, Koharu, asked in confusion, "What's wrong, Hiruzen?" Danzo was the one who answered her. "Naruto Uzumaki is again ranking at the top of his class this year, top in every subject, performing well above his age, and known to use the Jounin level Shadow Clone Jutsu. He beat a senior class student who tried to bully him and his classmates. And he's also known as the once-in-a-lifetime prodigy with the likes of Minato Namikaze and Itachi Uchiha." Hamura spoke. "Shadow Clone Jutsu is a very high-level jutsu, and for him to know such a technique is pretty impressive. Yes, he is very talented, Hokage-sama, but also very kind and respectful with others and his fellow classmates. I have seen him many times helping others in class, and he never showed any arrogance in his abilities," Irika informed them proudly. "He doesn't fit in at the academy anymore," Danzo said. "He has shown great maturity and is very strong. I say let's graduate him early and promote him to Genin rank." The others looked at him in shock at this suggestion, but it was Irika who voiced his thoughts. "But he is too young to become a shinobi." Hiruzen also nodded in agreement. "Irika is right. He is too young at the moment, and the time is different from our time. We are at peace now. We don't want children to fight at such young ages. Let him enjoy his childhood before getting involved with the shinobi world." Danzo sneered at Hiruzen and his weak ideology and spoke firmly. "Don't be foolish, Hiruzen. There were many shinobi who graduated at such an early age. Just look at Itachi Uchiha, and today he's an Umbu caption. If we let him continue in the academy, we're just wasting such a fine talent." Hamura and Koharu agreed with Danzo, stating that the main priority was to make their village strong and Naruto would be a fine addition in their shinobi ranks. "I agree with Danzo-sama. There isn't anything left that we can teach him at the academy." It was one of the academy instructors sitting next to Irika who spoke. Hiruzen knew that Naruto was strong and could already become a Genin, but he had always hoped for him to make friends with his age group, and to be promoted with older kids could destroy his career if they didn't treat him well. He spoke after thinking carefully. "I agree with you, but as you also know, Naruto is a special case. If we suddenly promote him with kids, he doesn't even know that could destroy his shinobi career, and we can't have that. I have decided that instead of graduating him early, I will advance him to the final year class. There he will graduate in 1 year, and during that time, he can also get to know his fellow classmates better and form bonds with them, so he can put trust in his teammates." Danzo and the other thought for a moment, and finding this to be a good option, showed their agreement with his decision. "That will be a good option," Danzo said. Irika spoke in concern. "Are you sure, Hokage-sama? Is it wise to let him graduate at such an early age? I understand your concerns, Irika, but I also can't ignore his performance. He doesn't fit in the academy anymore. Flashback end. Hiruzen sighed and brought himself back to the present. Only time will tell if I've made the right decision, Hiruzen thought as he looked at the fourth Hokage's face on mountain above the village. With Naruto. Naruto walked down the street, hands in his pockets. It was a cool morning, and he wore a long-sleeved, high-collared black t-shirt with the Uzumaki crest emblazoned on its back. His gray pants were wrapped with bandages around the ankles, and he wore his standard-issue blue shinobi sandals. Over the past 2 years, he had changed a lot training under Itachi, but he showed less emotion around people, and the opinions of the villagers who hated him because of the Kyuubi hadn't changed much. They still glared and muttered names behind his back, but at least he now knew the reason for their behavior. He didn't pay them much attention to them, only hoping they would change their attitude towards him one day. He had also improved in skills. Itachi had taught him the Uchiha clan taijutsu style, the interceptor fist, that capitalized on the Sharingan's ability to predict an opponent's movements, which he later combined with his hummingbird style, creating his own personal taijutsu style unrecognizable from the other two. In recent times, though, he had begun to notice little change in Itachi and Shirsue's natures. They both seemed restless and were always in some kind of tension. Itachi had told him that some kind of tension had been building up between the Uchiha clan and the village higher-ups, though he didn't know the reason for that, but hoped that everything would settle down soon. Today he was starting his new year in the Ninja Academy and was happy and a little nervous going there. Happy because the academy instructor had seen his progress and advanced him to the final year so that he could graduate and became a genin at the end of the year. Nervous because he didn't know how his new classmates would react towards him. The senior class students had always tried to bully him, and it had always ended with him getting in trouble with the Hokage. Realizing he was getting late for class, he picked up his pace and started hopping through roofs to get there. He arrived at the academy minutes later and started searching for the class the Hokage had told him to go to. After some time, he finally found a room with number 207 on the class door. Finally, he muttered. He was a little late and quickly went to knock on the door when he heard a familiar voice from inside that he couldn't quite place. "Yes, please come in," the voice said. Naruto opened the door and was surprised to see Irika standing there. He had never expected to meet him here. He also noticed that all the students were looking at him, probably wondering who he was and why he was there. "Oh, you finally arrived. I was waiting for you. Come here," Irika said, smiling, and motioned him to come near. Apparently, the Hokage had given Irika the final year class to teach to ensure nothing negative happened to Naruto. Naruto went over to him and faced the whole class, which was still looking at him with confusion. "He is a new student here and will be joining us from today," Irika informed the rest of the class. Then turning towards Naruto, he said, "Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?" Naruto nodded to him and faced the class with a stoic look and spoke. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I am looking forward to spending this year with you all." He bowed at the end. Irika smiled at Naruto and was about to say something when someone shouted in the class, "Hey, what do you mean he's new student? He looks younger than all of us." Irika sighed at that before responding. Yes, he was in the junior class, but because of his performance, the academy instructors with the Hokage's permission promoted him to the final year's class. "But that's so unfair, sensei. We spent so many years with those boring lectures, and he just skipped them." A brown-haired girl with red markings on her face whined from her seat. Irika finally had enough of it and said frustratingly, "That's enough. He is here because Hokage-sama allowed him to be, so you don't have any say in. Settle down." He then looked at Naruto and spoke. "You can go and sit, Naruto." Naruto nodded and went to sit in an empty chair at the back. As he was going there, he noticed some of the students were glaring at him and some were looking at him curiously. He didn't say anything and just went to sit quietly, waiting for Irika-sensei to start the lecture. "Okay, so before we start, I want to inform you all that as this is your last year in the academy, you will be learning some basic academy ninjutsu," Irika informed them. When Irika started his lecture, Naruto noticed that a couple of students were still glaring at him, and he remembered that they were the ones who had tried to bully him in the past. He paid them no mind and looked at his right, noticing a boy sitting there. The boy wore a bandana which covered his head and had a bang hanging in the middle between his eyes. He realized he didn't know anyone in the class, and then noticed that some of the students had clan symbols on their clothes. At lunchtime, Naruto sat on the school terrace looking at everyone from above. He already met his former classmates who had come to congratulate him for advancing in the academy, and now he was here alone. When he noticed some students coming over to him, he came out of his thoughts. "Hey you, what are you doing up here alone by yourself?" It was the girl from the group with brown hair and red marking on both her cheeks. Naruto looked at them, and he remembered them from his class earlier. "I was sitting here," he responded. "We're with you in the same class. Your name is Naruto Uzumaki, right?" It was the same girl who spoke. "Hi," Naruto nodded. They all smiled at him. "Well, my name is Hana Inazuka of the Inazuka clan," she said. "My name is Hei Gecko," said a boy who wore a simple outfit with a long-sleeved, red-colored haori, pants with bangles around his wrist and legs, and a bandana over his head. Naruto nodded and looked at the final member of the group. "My name is Yugao Yuzuki." She had straight, purple hair going down her shoulders and wore a white-colored shirt with brown pants. Naruto looked at her a little longer. He had never seen anyone with that hair color, and she was really pretty. Yugao narrowed her eyes a little, noticing him looking at her hair, and she growled at him. "What are you looking at?" Naruto looked away as he was caught staring at her, but noticing that she was getting angry with him, he quickly responded. "Nothing, it's just that your hair is really pretty. I've never seen anyone like that." As he said that, Yugao just looked at him, and then looked away to hide her blush. Right after that, though, she looked at him again and decided to tease him a little. She leaned forward a little, raised a single eyebrow, and asked with an innocent look, "Hey, are you trying to hit on me, huh?" What? Naruto spoke with wide eyes and a blush on his face. "But I think you're too young, and you're even shorter than me," Yugao said as she measured her height with him and then patted his head. "And you even look a little girly to me." Hana and Hei were barely holding back their laughter at Naruto's priceless expression. Yugao herself was also barely holding back her laugh. Naruto, on the other hand, had a small blush on his face, and at the same time his eyes were also twitching listening to her comments. But he composed himself a moment later and swapped her hand from his head. "Why are you all here?" he asked, looking at her. "What? I thought you'd be interested in talking to me," Yugao said, trying to look hurt. Both Hana and Hei couldn't hold it anymore and burst out laughing. But when they both calmed down, Hana decided to save Naruto from any more embarrassment. She spoke. "That's enough." Yugao stopped teasing him. Yugao giggled in response and spoke. "Fine." She then looked at Naruto, smiled genuinely, and said, "But thanks for the compliment anyway. You're the first one ever to compliment me on my hair." "Why are you here?" Naruto asked them once again. Hate responded. "Well, we're hanging out here and noticed you sitting here alone, and we decided to introduce ourselves and get to know you a little. After all, we're in the same class, right?" Naruto nodded at him. Then Hana asked, "So what are you doing here alone? Don't you want to hang out with your friends?" Friends, he thought, looking at them. He had never had any friend in his life. Sure, he used to hang out with his former classmates, but he couldn't call them his friends. He wasn't sure he really understood the meaning of friend. "I don't think I have any friends," responded Naruto. They looked at him for a moment before Yugao spoke. "You're a little weird one, you know that?" "Hey, then why don't you join us? It'll be fun," Hana said with a big smile on her face. Naruto thought it over a little and responded, "All right, but I don't want to go anywhere at the moment. So if you guys don't mind, can we just sit here?" They all nodded, then started talking. "You know, Naruto, we don't know anything about you other than your name," Hate spoke. "Well, what do you want to know about?" Naruto asked. "Well, just a little about yourself, what you like, and your dreams for the future," Hana responded. Naruto thought it over before he said, "I like ramen from Ichiraku. I hate when people judge others without knowing them, and as for my aim in life, I want to become the Hokage and surpass one particular person." Impressed looks crossed their faces, but they didn't ask him who he wanted to surpass. "Man, you really have big dreams in your life," Hate said. "Dreams don't really come true. They're just wishful thinking, nothing more. But what I have is a goal which I will achieve one day, Naruto responded confidently. They smiled at him. You must be strong. Already in the final year this early. I bet your parents must be really proud of you, Yugao said. Suddenly a sad expression came on Naruto's face, and he looked away, not wanting them to see. It was always a hard topic for him that he never had the chance to know his parents. How could he know if they would have been proud of him or not? I don't know. I think, he muttered, still not looking at any of them. What do you mean? Yugao asked in confusion. I never got to know them. They both died on the day of my birth, he said. All three looked at him with wide eyes, and Yugao quickly apologized. I'm sorry, Naruto, for bringing them up. Naruto shook his head and responded. You don't have to apologize, you didn't know. She nodded, but her face looked troubled. Hana decided to change the subject. We should get going, the break is about to be over in a couple of minutes. They all nodded and walked towards their classroom together for the rest of the lectures. Evening time. Later, Naruto was in the training field with Itachi and Shursui, relaxing after his training session with them. Talking about them, he also had noticed that Itachi and Shursui had started spending less and less time with him, always busy with their Umbu missions and always under some kind of stress and acting cold. He hoped everything would get normal soon enough. Shursui was one of his most trusted comrades, after the Hokage and Itachi, and he had even confided in him about his Sharingan. Just like Itachi, Shursui was shocked at first and didn't believe them, thinking they were joking with him. But later he realized that it was truth and promised to keep it a secret. Naruto looked up at the sky and watched the clouds. It didn't matter whether it was sunset or a night sky full of stars and a moon. He always felt relaxed looking at the sky. He was interrupted out of his thoughts by Itachi. So how was your day in the academy? Well, nothing much interesting. Just a normal day. But I met some students from my class and they invited me to hang out with them, Naruto responded. Itachi and Shursui both smiled at him. Then Shursui said with a grin, Did you listen, Itachi? Our little Naruto-chan made some new friends in the academy? Naruto glared at him. Stop calling me that, Shursuabaka, and besides, I wouldn't call them my friends. They're just my classmates. Itachi shook his head. You sometimes think too much. You should bond with other kids of your age. Look who's talking about friends. The ever-great stoic looking Itachi Uchiha. Shursui muttered under his breath with a deadpan look. Itachi glared at him. But a shinobi shouldn't get himself attached with other people. Naruto responded. We are all humans, Naruto. The emotions and bonds we form don't make us weak. They make us strong, Shursui said. You want to become Hokage so that you can protect the village and get people to acknowledge you, right? But why would you protect the village when you don't hold any attachment? But when you have even one person, then you will go beyond your abilities to save them, and they will do the same for you. Naruto nodded in understanding. Just remember that true strength comes when you have something to protect, Shursui quoted. Well, I guess I could at least try to make friends, Naruto muttered. Itachi noticed it was getting late and mentioned to both. We should get going, it's getting late. Shursui nodded and said, Yeah, you guys go. I have to report back to the HQ. Itachi and Naruto nodded at him, and Naruto went to stand up. Arg. He held his right leg in pain. You injured your leg in the training. Itachi spoke and looked at his leg. Well, Shursui Baka hits really hard, Naruto responded. Would you stop calling me Baka, you squirt? Shursui growled. Naruto glared at him and said, And you stop calling me squirt. But you are a squirt. Shursui pointed towards his height, and Naruto growled at him. No, I am not. I am only 9, you Baka. Itachi wrapped the bandage around his leg and then picked him up bride style. Hey, put me down. I can walk on my own, Naruto said in embarrassment. Itachi smiled a little, then looked at Shursui with a serious look and nodded at him. Shursui also nodded in response and said, Don't be late, Itachi. He then went off in his own direction. Itachi walked off the training field towards the streets, which were empty because of the late hour. He was laughing at Naruto, who was on his back with a pouting face. It's not funny, Naruto said. I'm sorry, Itachi apologized but still laughed a little. But I'm just happy. You're really like a kid brother to me. So being able to take you under my wing like this makes me happy. Naruto smiled at him in return and listened as Itachi continued. I know you also think of me as your older brother and depend on me for anything. Itachi was right. He really did depend on Itachi for anything and saw him as his own big brother. But in recent times he felt that Itachi was getting further away from him and he couldn't do anything about it. Itachi, he said, deciding to voice his concern. Itachi looked at him on his back. I was meaning to ask you about your behavior. You always look stressed and always come late for training now. Is everything all right with the clan? Naruto asked in concern. Itachi didn't look at him. He had already informed the Hokage about this, and he and Shursui were doing the best they could to control the situation, but it was getting really hard day by day. Tension between the Uchiha clan and village higher-ups is still very high. They suspect that the Uchiha clan was behind the Kyuubi attack. Meanwhile, the clan is thinking that they are losing their power in the village and are making unnecessary demands. Hokage-sama is doing his best as he could, but it's still not enough. Itachi informed him. So what are you going to do about it? Naruto asked. Truthfully, I don't know yet, but you don't have to worry about anything. We'll figure something out. Itachi assured him with a smile. I'm just worried about you and Shursui, Naruto muttered, tightening his hold on him. Itachi smiled a little in response. You must be tired from all the training we did today. Go ahead and sleep, but there's one thing that's certain. At this, Naruto's eyes started to close, but he did listen to what Itachi said at the last as he smiled and closed his eyes fully. I will never, ever betray you. 6 months later. It had been 6 months since he had started his final year class, and he had already impressed everyone in his class with his skills and was now at the top of the class. He started to hang out with Hate, Hana, and Yugao, and even met a couple of the other students. He even started to consider them as his close friends, though Yugao still teased him whenever she got a chance and Hana also joined her now, but he still enjoyed spending time with them. He even went on to train with them after the academy sometimes, and seeing him making friends, Hiruzen, Itachi, and Shursui were all happy for him. He was now sitting in the class, and next to him sat Yugao, who seemed to be paying close attention to what Iruka was teaching. Naruto was brought out of his thoughts by Iruka when he heard his name. Naruto, would you tell the class which jutsu this hand sign is used for? Naruto looked at the hand sign on the board, then answered. It's for water-style water bullet jutsu. Very good, Naruto, as always. Iruka complimented him with a smile. Some of the kids glared at him, and Yugao looked him at the corner of her eye and smirked. Wow, Naru, you're so smart. Naruto sighed at her teasing game. Would you stop that, Yugao? He glared at her. Yugao just giggled in response. Naruto and Yugao, don't disturb the class and pay attention closely. Iruka scolded them. They both apologized to him and went on listening to him. After some time, the class ended and Iruka called out to everyone. Well, now we have physical class and we are going out for some one-on-one fights. Iruka then took everyone towards the training ground and motioned them to stand in a straight line. I will be calling out names, and we will pair the opponents like this, all right? He then called out the first pair, and the fight went on for some minutes. After that, some more fights went on and Naruto observed from the sidelines. This was the first time he had seen any of them fight. He was impressed with Yugao, Hana, and Hate. As they beat their opponents, he congratulated them on their performance. He wondered if the other students were interested in seeing him fight. Finally, it was his turn as Iruka called him forward with another student. The other students were muttering amongst themselves about how he would do against last year's topper, but he ignored them as he stepped in the circle and looked at his opponent, waiting for Iruka to start the match. They both made the confrontation seal with their hand. Both fighters ready? They both nodded. Hajime. Iruka started the fight. Naruto's opponent wasted no time in attacking him and went to punch. Naruto quickly sidestepped so the punch would miss him and continued to block and dodge the attacks. Soon, his opponent started to get frustrated and lose his concentration as match dragged on. With every attack, Naruto would either block his punch or dodge his attacks. Naruto could read his opponent's attacks clearly. He wasn't using the Sharingan, but still could see it clearly because of regular training with Itachi and Shursui. Suddenly, taking advantage of his opponent's lack of concentration, he went under his defense and kicked him hard in the stomach, sending him staggering back. He He then pushed him down and held a punch in front of his face. All the present students looked on with wide eyes. Even his friends were looking at him in shock. Iruka himself looked impressed. Winner Naruto Uzumaki. Then Naruto and his opponent offered each other the reconciliation seal in respect. Naruto went over to stand with the other students, but just as he came to a stop, Hana held him in a headlock and messed his hair as she teased him. Hey look Yugao, our little Naru is such a prodigy. Yeah, I didn't know our Naru was so strong. Yugao spoke and looked at Naruto with an innocent look. You're not going to force us to call you Naruto-sama from now on, are you, Naru? The other students were looking at their interaction with amusement, and Iruka himself seemed to be holding his laugh. Naruto, on the other hand, was getting embarrassed by all the attention he was getting. He released himself from Hana's hold. Get off me, woman, and glared at both of them. The others laughed at his embarrassment, and he tried to hide his face from them. Finally, Iruka decided to stop this. All right, that enough, everyone. Unknown to Naruto, though, was that someone else was looking at him from the terrace and was smiling happily at his interaction with his fellow classmates. Itachi smiled sadly and gave him a last glance before disappearing in the wind. Naruto looked towards the terrace, suddenly feeling that someone was watching him from up there. But seeing nothing, he assumed it was only his imagination as he followed the others towards the classroom. That night, Naruto was in his apartment lying on the bed. He was thinking over his day, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something very bad was going to happen. Even Itachi and Shursui hadn't come to the training ground today. But thinking about it, he realized he hadn't really seen Shursui for a week, and he had only met Itachi a couple of times during the week. He heard a knocking sound on his window and immediately pulled a kunai, but soon relaxed when he noticed that it was a crow. He only knew 2 people who used crows. He went to open the window, and the crow quickly came inside and circled around a bit before it was followed by more crows, until they all seemed to merge and Itachi formed in his room. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. Itachi was in his umbu uniform, but it was the amount of blood covering him and his clothes that caused the shock. What happened, Itachi? What is all this about? He then noticed the tears marking Itachi's cheeks. Itachi first went toward the window and closed it, then turned towards Naruto, who was still looking at him with a shocked expression. Calm down, Naruto-kun. What's going on, Itachi? Why are you here like this? What happened? Naruto asked hurriedly. Itachi smiled at him a little. I come here to see you. Naruto noticed his smile and knew it was fake. Why? I am leaving, Naruto-kun, Itachi responded. Where are you going? And why is there so much blood on you? Naruto asked, getting a bad feeling about all this. Itachi walked up to him and kneeled down to his level. I am leaving the village. As for the blood, he stopped and looked at his clothes. I slaughtered the whole Uchiha clan, leaving my brother Sasuke the only survivor. I am now a traitor to the village. Naruto froze on the spot. He couldn't believe it. His mind went blank, and he didn't know what to think. He stepped back a little and looked at Itachi in complete shock, and didn't notice when tears began to flow from his eyes. He then grabbed Itachi by his collar and glared at him. What the hell are you talking about? Why would you do something like that? And where is Shursui? Itachi tried to calm him down by putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder. I had no other choice. You're talking nonsense. Where the hell is Shursui? Naruto asked loudly, losing his patience. Shursui is dead. He died a week ago. Itachi answered him, and Naruto looked at him with another shocked expression. How? Naruto asked weakly. Itachi pulled Naruto into a hug and spoke. Me and Shursui were both double agents. The Uchiha clan was plotting a revolt against the village to gain power, and my father told me to supply the village secrets to the clan, but I told Hokage-sama and the elders. I became their spy in the clan, but the clan started to suspect me, so they ordered Shursui to keep an eye on me. They didn't know he was working with me to stop the clan from completing their plans. Now it was starting to become clear for Naruto. This is why they had both looked stressed and had been coming late for training. This explained their cold behavior sometimes. But how could you kill the whole clan? I had no other option. If I didn't, then the village would be caught up in a civil war, and other nations could try to take advantage of that. I needed to prevent another shinobi war. Itachi responded. But that was your own clan, Naruto protested. The clan is not more important than the whole village Naruto. I am Itachi Uchiha of the Leaf first. The Uchiha clan comes second. But you can't leave me. And what about your brother Sasuke? Naruto tried to reason with him. I'm sure Ji-chan can do something to help you out. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. Don't you remember you once told me that being shinobi means self-sacrifice? That's what I'm doing. This is my sacrifice for the betterment of the village. But I don't want you to leave me, Naruto cried. Don't worry, Naruto. I am sure you and Sasuke both will be fine. You still have people here who care about you. Itachi then hugged him tightly as tears flowed from his eyes. I must be going now. Hokage-sama is preparing for my leave. I will be supplying information by infiltrating the enemy lines, and I'll leave the village to you. Wait, please don't go, Inai-san. Naruto tried to stop him. You're just like me, Naruto. I know you'll understand me. Just remember that the nameless individuals who maintain peace from the shadows are true shinobi. Shursui taught us both that. Then he tapped Naruto's forehead with his 2 fingers. And don't worry too much, we'll meet again one day. Then his body started dissolving into individual crows, and he gave one final smile to Naruto before fully dispersing. Naruto dropped to his knees and cried. He felt the seal around his eyes disappear, and his Sharingan activated as Tomo started to shift. That night, he gained a 3rd Tomo in both his eyes as they started spinning madly before stopping to show a fully mature Sharingan. Itachi, Shursui, I promise that I will become a true shinobi, just like you both, and protect this village with everything I have till my last breath. This is my promise as Naruto Uzumaki of the village hidden in the leaves. A week later, Naruto was standing in the training field looking at the big stone with Shinobi written on it in kanji. He had been standing there for an hour, just looking at the stone. It had been a week since Itachi left the village and was now marked as S-rank criminal for his crime against the village. Hiruzen had talked with him and explained everything in detail as Itachi told him. He knew the truth, but Hiruzen had asked him to keep it secret. He didn't talk to anyone properly and became more quiet, even acting cold with his friends. The whole village was cursing Itachi for what he did, and he thought bitterly that the person the whole village is cursing for killing their precious Uchiha clan was actually the one who saved them and their families. Shinobi don't fight for personal glory. Nameless individuals who maintain peace from the shadows are the true shinobi, he thought, remembering what Itachi had told him that night. Hey, Naruto. He looked to his right and noticed Yugao running towards him and waving to get his attention. He just looked at her as she come to stop in front of him and catch her breath. I was looking for you. She waited for his response but got nothing in return, so she shook her head. Well, anyway, me and Hannah are going to the dango shop to get something to eat. Do you want to join us? Naruto didn't respond to her and walked past her. I have to go for my shuriken jutsu training. Yugao looked sad at his refusal. Well, all right then, so you want to hang out later? He just continued walking. Some other kids from their class were also watching this, but he didn't care. Hey, you think you're better than USHUHH, one of them shouted. Naruto continued to walk, not paying them any attention. Answer US, damn it. I hate your attitude. Always trying to show off. Another one shouted when he didn't respond. My mother told me that the Kyuubi attack was all you're doing. The same kid spoke. My father died in that attack, you monster. First, false charges, then a broad interpretation. It was precisely in these kinds of human feelings that the origin of war lay. A person wants to bury somehow the sense of loss after losing someone they love. This feeling, a feeling they don't know how to vent, snatches away their power of judgment and runs wild. And then they hurt someone. Each and every word out of the older boy's mouth made Naruto feel more and more weighed down, but still not stopping. You're not going to listen like this? That's fine. We have other ways to get you talk. One said with smirk. Hey, leave him alone, Yugao demanded. They paid her no mind and threw a rock towards his head. Naruto dodged it without even looking. They started to throw more rocks at him, and he continued to dodge. The thought of fighting them crossed his mind suddenly. It wouldn't take him even 3 minutes to beat down these fools. But if he decided to fight them now, then he wouldn't be able to stop himself from killing them. These students didn't understand that the institution of school was protecting them. Hey, what are you doing? Stop it now, Yugao demanded. Don't worry, we're just playing here, and he's a tough guy. He can handle it. One of them responded calmly. Naruto suddenly turned around, jumped and caught the rock in his hand, then threw it back at them, deflecting all the rocks they had hurled mid-air and hitting the final rock from the hand of the kid in front. They all looked at him with shocked expressions and didn't say anything. Naruto then turned around and walked off the field. "Please, talk to me, Naru," Yugao thought with a concerned look. Time skip, graduation day. It was finally the day they were going to graduate the academy and became Genin. They were all sitting in the class talking with each other to pass the time, while waiting as Irika began calling students one by one for the ninjutsu exam. They had already finished with the written test and shuriken and kunai throwing, and now it was time for the ninjutsu part. Naruto was sitting alone at the corner bench next to the window waiting for his chance. He was looking out of the window and not paying attention and showing not the least bit of worry about the exams. He was fully confident with himself to pass the exam without much effort. His friends were talking among themselves and looking at Naruto from the corners of their eyes time to time. His behavior hadn't changed much, and his friends still didn't know the reason, as Naruto kept his personal life to himself and hadn't shared with anyone. He didn't even talk to them much anymore and had started spending less and less time with them by training alone. "Hey Broody-kun, are you ready for the ninjutsu portion of the exam?" Hana asked Naruto playfully. Naruto looked at her, not liking being called Broody, and responded, "Hana, would you please stop calling me that?" Yugao and Hana both giggled at his response, as they still teased him whenever they got a chance. "I would if you would at least try to be more open and talk with us. We're your friends, after all," Hana stated to him with a smile. "I am talking to you guys," Naruto responded. "Really?" Yugao asked with a deadpan expression on her face. She then shook her head and asked, "Anyway, are you ready for the ninjutsu part?" Naruto nodded. "I am ready. I'm not going to fail, that's for sure." "I think you shouldn't be talking about failing the exam, Naruto. As far the results show, you were top in everything," Hei pointed out. Yugao put her head on the desk in depression. Who would have thought that a kid younger than us would show up out of nowhere and outrank us all? "I hate you so much, Naru," she muttered. Naruto responded calmly. "Instead of showing your hate towards me, you should have spent more time in your training." Yugao glared at him for his response and muttered, "Smartass." Naruto just shook his head at her. He looked at the door as it opened and in walked one of the student with leaf headband in his hand, showing that he had passed the exam. He looked at Naruto and said, "It's your turn, Naruto." Naruto just nodded at him and stood up to go, but before he could walk, a hand grabbed his wrist to stop him. He looked at Yugao, who held his wrist. She smiled at him and said, "All the best, Naruto." Both Hana and Hate also nodded at him with smiles. He freed his hand from Yugao's hold and muttered, "Thanks," and walked off. He arrived in the class where Irika sat with a couple more instructors. He came and stood in front of them. "Good you're here, Naruto." Irika greeted him with a smile before continuing. "Now for the final part, you need to perform 3 techniques. First, let's start with substitution jutsu." Naruto nodded before channeling chakra to perform the jutsu. He substituted himself with a nearby chair, then subsided back again to his standing place. The instructors nodded with satisfaction, and Irika said, "Good. Now, transformation jutsu." Naruto made the hand seal and muttered, "Transform." Soon smoke covered him before it cleared and showed the third Hokage instead of him. Irika examined him and nodded in satisfaction with his perfect jutsu. Then Irika spoke. "Very good, Naruto. As for the next jutsu, I already know you can perform this jutsu, but you still have to show me just for the formalities, so just make clone of yourself." Naruto made a cross-hand seal and called out the jutsu name, Shadow Clone Jutsu, and made 6 perfect-looking clones of himself. The instructors all looked impressed at his performance, and Irika smiled at him proudly. "Congratulations, Naruto. You passed the exam with flying colors. Here's your headband. Wear it with pride." Naruto smiled at him before accepting the headband and tied it on his forehead. He then bowed to them in respect and spoke. "Thank you, Sensei." They smiled and nodded to him, and Naruto exited the class happily. He arrived back in his class and went towards his seat. When his friends noticed his leaf headband, they smiled happily and congratulated him for passing the exam and started talking among themselves. After some time, Irika walked into class and told everyone to settle down so he could speak. Congratulations, everyone, on passing the exam and becoming Genin, but this is just the start of your career, so I wish you best of luck. And one more thing I would like to announce is that we had many good performances this year, but there was one student to surpass all the other performances and come on top. They listened to him closely. The Rookie of the Year is Naruto Uzumaki. The class looked at Naruto in shock. He was younger than them and had arrived just a year ago in the class, and yet he outclassed them all by becoming the Rookie of the Year. His friends also looked at him, but Naruto just sat calmly. He knew it was just the start and that he would face far stronger tasks in the future. The graduation exams were over, and Naruto was waiting for class to start for the last time. Sitting at his usual place beside the window, he looked much the same as he always had, but he now wore the sword on his back that Itachi had gifted him, along with fingerless gloves and 2 kunai holsters attached to the back of his waist. Today was the day they would be put in teams and assigned to Jounin Sensei, and he hoped that whichever team he was put on wouldn't slow him down. "Good morning, Naruto." Naruto turned and saw his friends settling down beside him. He nodded to them and noticed both Yugao and Hate also wore swords on their backs. "I never knew that you both were interested in Kenjutsu. You never mentioned it before." "You never asked," Yugao responded straightly. "We both train with each other because we both want to become Kenjutsu specialists." Naruto raised an eyebrow at her, but then shrugged it off. Everybody had their own secrets. After all, he himself had kept almost everything about himself a secret from them. He also noticed Hana, but this time she was not alone. 3 dogs walked beside her. He had never seen them before, but knew the Inuzuka clan worked with ninja dogs as their partners. Hana noticed him looking at her companions and introduced them to him. "You don't know my partners, Naruto-kun, since you've never been to my house. These are the 3 Himura brothers." Naruto just nodded at her and her companions. When he didn't say anything, Yugao's eyes started to twitch and she bonked him over his head with her fist. "You idiot, don't just sit there. Introduce yourself to them." She spoke in annoyance. Naruto rubbed his head where she had hit him and muttered under his breath, "You don't have to hit me for that." But he shut up when Yugao narrowed her eyes and began to look mad. He then quickly looked at the triplets and introduced himself, not wanting to get her more angry. "Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I am friends with Hana." The triplets barked at him happily and jumped at him, licking his face in response. Naruto's friends laughed seeing this. "Look, they already like you, Naruto," Hana said. Naruto smiled at them and rubbed their heads softly with his hand. Their attention turned towards the door, then as Irika walked in with some files in his hand. By this time, everyone had arrived and were sitting talking with each other. "Good morning, everyone," Irika said. "It's good to see you all once again. This is our last day together in the academy as you all are genin now and will be put in selected teams. But before announcing your teams, I would like to say something to you all." He stopped for a moment and looked at everyone. "You're only genin, so don't get big heads. Train hard from now because this is just a start. You'll face many challenges from now on in your life, so be prepared for them and don't take it easy. Listen to your superiors, trust your teammates, and I am very proud to be part of this batch. Now, coming back to your teams, listen up closely. Team 1 Inch." Irika started announcing the teams. Naruto listened for his name, hoping to be put on a decent team. Then finally, he heard it. Team 12 will be Naruto Uzumaki, Hana Inuzuka, and Yugao Yuzuki. The 3 looked at each other. Naruto smiled, very much satisfied with his team. He knew both Hana and Yugao were strong, and he could trust them and could work with them without any problems. Now he just hoped they could get a good sensei. Suddenly, a hand came around his neck. He looked at his right and noticed Yugao with that look on her face which he had gotten so used to. She moved closer to him and spoke with a big smile. "See, Naru, even destiny couldn't keep us apart." Naruto blushed at this and muttered under his breath, "Why me?" Apparently, he was still going to be tortured by both Yugao and Hana. They still didn't know when to stop. "Now you all have to wait here until your assigned squad leaders come to pick you up," Irika said when he had finished announcing the teams. "And once again, good luck everyone. I wish you all a successful career ahead." With that, Irika collected his things and left the class. While they were waiting, Naruto turned towards Hate. "Which team were you put on?" I didn't hear. Hei just pointed towards his teammates, Izumo and Kotetsu. Naruto had hung out with them before and knew they were very good friends with Hei. Izumo, Kotetsu, it's good to see you guys again, Naruto said, greeting them. They both waved at him in response. I guess you were too busy with your girlfriend to even notice us, Izumo then said. Naruto glared at him while the others laughed until finally some jounin started to arrive. Hokage office. Observing Naruto through his crystal ball, Hiruzen was happy that he had made some wonderful friends, but he wished the boy would open up more with them. It's not always good to keep everything bottled up inside yourself, Hiruzen thought. So what do you think of him so far? Hiruzen asked the jounin who stood beside him. As you said, he doesn't talk much, but he still formed a close relationship with his friends. He doesn't trust people very fast, but he is very observant and is very intelligent. I believe he's always thinking 2 steps ahead, Hiruzen said. That has to be expected, the jounin commented. You don't get promoted through your academy years with an ordinary performance. Hiruzen nodded. I expect you to take care of him. That's the least I could do for him, the jounin said. His father was a very dear friend of mine. I may not have been able to be there for him in his childhood, but now I'll be there as his sensei to guide him. You'll have a difficult task ahead of you, Hiruzen then said. Perhaps, but now at least I can get that troublesome woman off my back, the jounin muttered, then speaking more loudly. But if that's all Hokage-sama, I think I should get going to meet them. Hiruzen shook his head as his best jounin gave a casual wave and walked out of the office. Did every top shinobi have to be so weird? With that thought, he pulled out an orange-covered book and opened it to where he had left off, reading and giggling at the same time. Where the hell is our sensei? We're the only ones left here, Hana said in annoyance. He'll get here, Hana. Be patient, it's not that late, Yugao responded. A couple of minutes later, the class door opened, and a shinobi wearing the Konoha standard issue jounin uniform walked in. He had dark hair tied up into a spiky ponytail, dark eyes, and a goatee. But his most noticeable features were 2 scars on the right side of his face. The 3 genin looked at him in astonishment. Team 12, the jounin said. It was more of a statement than a question. They nodded. I'm your sensei. Follow me. He then exited the room, and the 3 genin quickly followed him. Training field. When they arrived on the training field, their new sensei ordered them to sit down. The newly promoted genins quickly followed the order and then looked at each other, not knowing what to do next. Now what, sensei? Hana asked. Why don't we start with our introductions so we can get to know each other, he said, his voice slightly annoyed. We already know each other, sensei. Why don't you go first? Yugao suggested. The jounin shrugged his shoulders and muttered under his breath. Troublesome. Then he started. My name is Shikaku Nara. I'm the head of the Nara clan. My likes are playing shogi, being with my family, and finding time to take a nap without my troublesome wife nagging me. My dislikes are traitors. My goal is to help you towards your goals. He then pointed towards Hana. She nodded and started. The name's Hana Inuzuka, and these little guys are the 3 Himura brothers. My likes are my family, friends, and annoying my little brother. I hate perverts and people who don't treat animals kindly, and my dream is to become a great medic kunoichi. Shikaku smiled and nodded in satisfaction at her. Now it's your turn, Purple-chan, he said, turning to Yugao. Yugao glared at him. My name is Yugao Yuzuki, not Purple. My likes are my friends and training in Kenjutsu. I also hate perverts, rapists, and Naruto's broody face. Naruto glared at her as she continued. My dream is to become a Kenjutsu specialist and a respected kunoichi. Now you go, Blondie, Shikaku said to the last member of his squad, who simply nodded in return. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I don't have any particular likes or dislikes, and my dream is to surpass all the previous Hokage and protect the Leaf Village and its will of fire and to live up to my ancestors' names. He spoke in a rush. Both Hana and Yugao looked at him in confusion at the mention of his ancestors. All they knew was that he had grown up in an orphanage. He never talked about himself with them even though they were friends, and they always felt upset that he didn't seem to trust them well enough to share anything personal. Shikaku also narrowed his eyes a little. He knows about his heritage. Hokage-sama never told me anything about that. He then grabbed his student's attention again. Well, it's good you all have your ambitions and are serious about your ninja careers, but before you guys call yourself ninja, you have to pass my special test. If you fail, you'll be sent back to the academy for one more year. But we already passed the Genin exam in the academy. Why do we have to do an exam again? Yugao asked. Shikaka chuckled at her question and responded. You really believe that just by giving some answers on paper and doing a couple of low-level jutsu that you're ready to become Genin? That's just to select the candidates who have potential to be Genin. It's your Jounin sensei who will decide if you will become a Genin or not. So what do we have to do now to become a Genin? Naruto asked with narrowed eyes. Hana and Yugao also nodded. Shikaku folded his arms and spoke in a lazy tone. Coming on to that part, as you see, I really don't want to be a sensei and babysit you guys. It's way too troublesome for me. His new students looked at him in shock. But I can't just send you back, so we will fight here, and whoever impresses me well enough will stay on as my apprentice. The other two will go back to the academy. This shocked them even more. Was he asking them to betray each other? What? You can't do that. You can't just simply play with other people's careers just because you're too lazy to handle your responsibilities. Hana said angrily. Of course I can. I can't lose my reputation because of you. So I'll just pick out the best one. Shikaka smirked. I won't do it. Yugao muttered under her breath and looked down. Shikaku raised an eyebrow. Did you say something, Purple-chan? I said, I will not fight you just for your amusement. She shouted as tears fell from her eyes. I won't compete with my teammates just so that I can be your student. I will gladly go back to the academy for one more year rather than have you as my sensei. Both Hana and Naruto looked at her in surprise. Naruto had never seen her cry before. Shikaku responded with a shrug of his shoulders. Well, that means less work for me. Now I only have two to select from. Go to hell. Hana shouted this time with a glare. I also don't want to be on your team. Then it's decided. Naruto, you'll be my apprentice and we'll be a two-man team from now on. Shikaku pointed towards both the girls. You two will be going back to the academy. Thanks for making it easier for me. They both glared at him with hate and then looked at Naruto. He was just sitting with his eyes closed, not paying them any attention. With expressions of disappointment, they gave one final glance towards Naruto before standing up to leave. I am sorry, Naruto said finally. They both stopped and looked at him. His eyes were closed, and it appeared that he was talking to them. They both smiled a little sadly, but before they could say anything, Naruto opened his eyes. I'm sorry, sensei, but I can't leave them like this, he said. I never knew my family and never had any friends before I joined the academy. I was always alone, but when I joined the academy and met them, I slowly started to consider them as my friends. I don't have anything other than them in my life, and for me, they're my family. From the shocked expressions on the girls' faces, they probably never expected him to say something like that. Smiles slowly appeared on their faces. One thing I learned in my life is to always cherish my friends, and what you're asking me is to just leave them behind for my own benefits. I can't do that. I'm sorry, sensei, but that is against my morals. I will go back to the academy with them. He bowed at the end and turned to leave. Shikaku, who had appeared shocked, now tried to mask his happy expression behind his lazy attitude and muttered, What a drag this is turning out to be. He shook his head. So if this is your final decision, I will give you one more chance to think it over again. I don't have to think more about it. My decision is final, Naruto said, and the three friends turned to leave. All right, come back you three. You all pass, even though it is troublesome. Shikaka spoke with smile. The three genin turned around and looked at him in confusion, but not without a little hope in their eyes. What do you mean, sensei? Yugao asked. Why do I have to repeat myself again? He muttered quietly before answering. What I mean is that you all pass, and we're officially a team now. But how did we pass? I don't understand. We didn't do anything. Hana spoke in confusion. Your decision to stand with your teammates and not abandon them for your benefit is the reason you pass. Konoha village believes in teamwork, and it's because of that we are one of the strongest villages in the elemental nations. I myself belong to the team Inoshikicho, which is famous and feared for its teamwork. I know the importance of teamwork. Shikaku explained. Aren't we supposed to fight you to show you our teamwork? Naruto asked. Shikaku shrugged his shoulders before responding. It's no good. I believe that the teamwork develops with time. You can't just start working with each other in one day, but I wanted to see what your thoughts are about your teammates and if you'd be able to work together in the future. Also, fighting you all will be too troublesome. This gained a sweat drop from the three genin. He's not joking about that. He really is lazy, Hana whispered to Yugao and Naruto. So we really passed then, for real? Yugao asked. Why do you guys keep asking the same thing again and again? You pass already, but if you still want to go back to the academy, I can arrange that easily. Shikaku responded tiredly. Both Yugao and Hana smiled and high-fived each other. Then Yugao turned to Naruto and put an arm around his shoulders. I never doubted that you cared about your Yugao-chan, Naru, so don't worry, I will never leave you, she said with smirk. Naruto blushed a little and pushed her away. Back off, pervert, and don't come near me. Yugao's face went bright red from embarrassment as she pointed her finger at him. I'm not a pervert. Don't call me that. Then stop touching me and keep your distance. Naruto responded. But didn't you say that you care about me? She asked with an innocent face. I never said anything like that, Naruto said. You did. I heard it clearly. She then turned to Shikaku, who was watching the scene with amusement. You also heard him say that in that amazing speech of his, right, sensei? I don't think he said anything like that, Shikaku said. Huh. If you didn't, then you didn't listen clearly, she said with a glare. She then turned back to Naruto and said with a smile. Don't worry, Naru. I heard you clearly, so you don't have to be shy in front of me. Naruto didn't know how to respond to her teasing, so he just folded his hands and snorted. HNN, and looked away. As this was happening, Hana and Shikaku watched with amusement from the side. Hana turned to Shikaku and said, You should get used to this from now on, sensei, because this is an everyday thing with those two. Troublesome was his only response. Seeing they were not stopping, though, he decided to step in. All right, that's enough, you two. We are now officially a team. But we won't be getting a mission until tomorrow, so you want to go for some barbecue to celebrate. The three genin nodded at him happily, but before they could move, Shikaku called them once again. You both go ahead. I want to talk to Naruto about something. We'll be just behind you, so you don't have to wait long. Both girls nodded with curious looks on their faces, but then left, giving only one glance back towards Naruto and leaving them alone to talk. Naruto looked at his sensei in confusion. What do you want to talk about? Shikaku stared at him for a little longer. The things you said about your teammates were very admirable. It's very good to see that you made such wonderful friends, and it's very good to finally meet you, Naruto. You're the spitting image of your father. Naruto narrowed his eyes, not fully trusting him. As far as he knew, only the Hokage, Itachi, and Jiraiya knew about his heritage. But he remembered that the Hokage had told him one time that some of his parents' friends were also aware of him. Even so, he was still not sure if he could trust him or not. You know who my father was? He asked. Shikaku nodded. He was one of my very close friends, and I am also aware of all his secrets. What secrets are you talking about? Naruto asked in suspicion. Don't be too surprised that he was my friend. I also know about your secrets and the one you keep hidden behind the seal. He pointed toward Naruto's eyes. How do you know about that? Only 3 people were aware of that till now. Naruto asked in shock. Shikaku nodded. Hokage-sama told me about that. I just wanted you to know that you can trust me with anything. I am here for you, and I especially asked you to be placed on my team as that's the least I could do for you, for not being there before. Naruto could see that his sensei really meant what he said, and finally nodded in understanding. If my father and Hokage trusted you, then so can I. I'm finally meeting one of my father's friends. I hope you tell me about him, but I also don't want you to show me favoritism. Shikaku smiled and spoke. You've grown up well. Is this all you wanted to talk about, sensei? Naruto asked. Shikaku shook his head. I also wanted to know something. He stopped for a moment before speaking again. I wanted to know if your teammates know about you being a Jinchuriki. Naruto looked down. He had known he'd have to tell people close to him about his hidden secrets eventually. If he couldn't tell them, how could he expect them to trust him, especially now that they were a team and were supposed to trust each other with their lives? I just don't know how they would react after knowing the truth. I may not show it, but I really care about them and I don't want them to leave me and think of me like some people in the village do. Shikaku put a hand on his shoulder and smiled. You think too much, brat. Give them a chance. They will understand you. I've seen it today that they were both ready to go back to the academy, so you could pass. Your teammates genuinely care about you, so don't you think they deserve to know about you? Naruto kept silent for a minute, wondering if he could really tell them. I'll think about it. Shikaka nodded and spoke lazily. We should get going. It's not good for our health to keep ladies waiting. It can be really troublesome. Naruto laughed a little at his sensei's comment, but said nothing. He had seen both Hana and Yugao beating the shit out of people and didn't want to be on the receiving end. With Yugao and Hana, they both had arrived at the barbecue restaurant a couple of minutes ago and were waiting for their teammates. What do you think they're talking about? Yugao asked. Hana closed her eyes in annoyance as she had lost the count of how many times Yugao had asked the same question since they'd arrived. What's gotten into you? I already said I don't know. Just ask them when they get here. Yugao just shrugged her shoulders. I can't stop thinking why Sensei had to talk to Naruto in private and not in front of us. I also don't understand that, Hana said. During our team meeting, I noticed Sensei kept eyeing Naruto from time to time. Yugao spoke. Hana looked at Yugao with a teasing expression. Hey, do you think our sensei is a pervert who likes young boys? Yugao looked at her with a deadpan expression. Don't joke like that. I'm serious. Are you sure? I think you're jealous because of Sensei spending alone time with Naruto. Hana giggled. Yugao's eyes twitched and she glared. Stop talking nonsense. It's nothing like that. I don't believe you, the way you flirt with him. But I can't blame you. He is very cute. Just imagine how handsome he'll be in the future. Hana got a dreamy look on her face. Yugao blushed. It's nothing like that. Then she calmed herself before saying, it's just that I don't like his emotionless attitude. We don't even know anything about him other than his name, so I just try to get him to open up with us, and I really like making him embarrassed. It's better than having a serious face all the time. What are you girls talking about? At their sensei's voice, they both looked up and noticed their teammates. Nothing much, sensei. It's just girl talk. Hana responded as Shikaku sat down beside her, and Naruto climbed into the booth beside Yugao. What were you guys talking about? Yugao then asked Naruto. Naruto looked at her from the corner of his eyes. It's nothing you should worry about. What kind of answer is that? Yugao looked at him with a glare. Naruto just kept quiet. We already ordered the food. It should be arriving soon. Hana quickly informed them and began asking Shikaku about the ninja missions. When the food arrived, they happily started eating, but Naruto stayed quiet, still thinking about the conversation he'd had with Shikaku and not sure if he could trust Yugao and Hana with his secrets. More than that, though, he was scared that they wouldn't understand him. Would you guys like to come to my house after this? Naruto asked suddenly. Shikaka looked at him silently, but both Hana and Yugao got shocked expressions on their faces. Yugao recovered and smiled. Of course, Naru, but why so suddenly? I wanted to talk with you both about something, and I'm not comfortable speaking about it in public, Naruto responded. Well, all right then, Hana said. Naruto's apartment wasn't fancy, but it was very clean and well-maintained. Wow, your house is so clean, Naruto. I can't even keep my room clean, Hana said, looking around. Are you sure about this, Naruto? Shikaku asked. Naruto nodded. I think you're right, sensei. They deserve to know the truth. I can't keep it a secret forever. Shikaku nodded in understanding, while Hana and Yugao both looked at them. What you guys talking about? Yugao asked as she looked at Naruto. What do you want to talk about, Naru? Naruto kept silent for a moment before closing his eyes. I know you guys think that I don't trust you enough to tell you about myself. They listened to him quietly. But you're my friends, and you deserve to know some things about me. And if you guys decide to leave me after knowing the truth, I won't hold anything against you. Yugao smiled nervously and asked, why would we leave you, Naru? Hana nodded with her. Naruto looked down. I was born on the 10th of October, on the night of the Kyuubi attack. Many in the village hate me and think of me as some kind of demon and Kyuubi reincarnation. How could they think of you as some monster just because you were born on that day? It doesn't make you any monster, Hana said. It's not because of that. You were told in the academy that the fourth Hokage killed the Kyuubi while sacrificing his life, but that's not true. What are you trying to say, Naru? Of course Lord Fourth killed the Kyuubi. And what's any of this have to do with you? Yugao asked nervously. I am just saying that what you were told in the academy wasn't true, Naruto said as he looked at her. He didn't kill the Kyuubi because the Bijou can't be killed. How could you say that? Yugao asked. If he didn't kill the Kyuubi, then why would they tell us wrong? What do you know about it? Naruto closed his eyes and spoke. You can't kill the Bijou, and even if you manage to kill the beast, they will just reform again. So all he could do was to seal it away. So the fourth Hokage sealed the Kyuubi in me and made me a Jinchuriki. With this, he pulled his shirt up and showed the seal on his stomach. They both looked at him with wide eyes and shocked faces. Then why would they say that the fourth killed the Kyuubi? Hana asked, her eyes brimming with tears. This time Shikaku answered. The fourth Hokage's last wish was for Naruto to be seen as hero for saving the village, but some people thought it was better to kill him than see him as some kind of hero. So the third Hokage passed down the law to never mention the truth about Naruto to the younger generation. Breaking the law results in death. At this, Yugao walked up to Naruto and slapped him hard on the face. Glaring at him with tears in her eyes, she spoke. Bastard, you could have told us earlier. I don't care if you have some monster sealed inside of you. You are still the same Naruto to me. I was scared, Naruto muttered. But seeing her look at him as she always had made him feel happy, I thought that if I told you guys, you would leave me. Yugao looked at him with softened eyes and hugged him tightly. I will never leave you, Naru. For me, you will always be my cute Naru-chan. Naruto was shocked by the hug, but relaxed and put his hand around her waist and returned her hug. Yugao smiled and tightened her hold on him. Hana walked up to them and put her arms around them both. Don't leave me behind. We are a team now. Shikaka smiled but didn't interrupt, looking relieved and proud. They released their hug and Naruto said, Thank you guys. They both smiled at him, but Yugao asked, But why would the fourth Hokage choose you? He didn't have any right to put such a burden on you. Naruto didn't say anything, but only looked away. Yugao narrowed her eyes at this. You already know something about this, don't you, Naru? Naruto just kept quiet until Yugao grabbed his collar and glared as she pulled him closer. I've had enough of your attitude and your secrets, brat. Tell me now. Naruto looked at Shikaku for some help, but Shikaku's look told him, Do what you want, I am not dealing with her. Hey, calm down a little, Yugao, Hana said. I want my answers, Yugao said, ignoring Hana. He can't just go and ask anybody to sacrifice their child, Naruto responded. He chose me because I am his son. Both Hana and Yugao looked at him in shock. Yugao released his collar and stuttered. Why you're F4th Hokage's son? Naruto smiled and rubbed the back of his head. Well, of course I'm his son. They both looked at his face closely. Well, you really look a lot like him, Hana said. Then she turned toward Shikaku and asked, Seeing your reaction on this, does that mean that you're already aware of this, sensei? He nodded with a long sigh. I was aware of it from the start. His father was a very good friend of mine. Wow, Yugao said, inspecting his face closely. You really do look like the fourth, but I am not going to call you Naruto-sama. Naruto chuckled. I don't want you to address me like that just because of my father. Yugao smiled at him. That smile really looks good on you, Naru. Please smile a lot. Naruto looked away with a blush, not knowing if she was teasing him again or saying genuinely. It's good to see that you've taken the news so well, but keep in mind that you can't talk about it with other people. Those were all village secrets, and I should say everything related to Naruto is a matter of village security, so be careful. Shikaku's words got their attention. And I was going to tell my mother that I'm on the same team with 4th Hokage's son, Hana muttered. Shikaka looked at her. I don't think you have to tell her anything. She's already aware of his heritage. How does she know? Hana asked in shock. Most of the clan heads are aware of his parents' identities. We were all friends coming from the same class, and his mother was on the same team with your mother and a very good friend. Shikaku informed them. Really? Hana spoke in excitement. So that's why she's always keep telling me to invite Naruto to our home. Well, that's enough for today, Shikaka said. I'm going now. I expect you guys to be ready tomorrow for your first team assignment. He waved goodbye as he walked out the door. I should also get going. I have pick up my little brother from the academy, Hana said, leaving Naruto and Yugao. Yugao looked at Naruto. Su, I don't have anything to do. You want to go out for a walk? I don't see anything wrong with that, Naruto responded with a shrug. With Team 12. It was another beautiful morning in Kanahagakure, and the newly formed Team 12 members waited at the training ground for their lazy sensei to arrive. Today would be their first mission as Genin. Hana and Yugao were talking excitedly with each other and speculating about what kind of mission they would get, but Naruto stood quietly, his eyes closed, enjoying the morning sun on his face. After relieving such a heavy burden the day before when he had revealed one of his secrets to his teammates, he felt relaxed and lucky to have met people like them. Even after they had learned that he held the Kyuubi no Kitsune within himself and was the son of the fourth Hokage, they still treated him like they always had. He hadn't told them everything about himself, but that would come in time. The important thing was that he now felt that he could trust them with anything. Naruto-kun, Hana said. Naruto opened his eyes and looked at her as she spoke. So what kind of mission do you think we'll be getting today? I don't think they'll give us anything important or dangerous on our first day, he responded calmly. Don't be silly, Naru. You'll see. We'll be doing a dangerous mission, Yugao said with a small smirk. We're shinobi now, not academy students, and we can handle some serious stuff. But don't worry, I'll be there to protect you if anything happens. Naruto shook his head but didn't respond to her. Then Hana continued. You know, Naruto-kun, I had a talk last night with my mother. What does that have to do with me? Naruto asked her. Hana narrowed her eyes at him playfully. You still kept a lot of things hidden from us yesterday. Yugao looked at her with a confused expression. What things are you talking about? Naruto asked. I talked about what you told us yesterday and asked a bit about your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, and my mother told me that she was the granddaughter of the first Hokage Hashirama Senju, Hana said. That makes you his great-grandson. What? Yugao said in shock and looked at Naruto. Why, you're also related to the first Hokage? I don't think that's anything important, so I didn't mention it, Naruto responded calmly. Hana looked at him with a smile. I know that you have a lot more secrets, but I just wanted to tell you that we understand and will wait for you to tell us more about you whenever you're ready. Naruto leaned his back against the training post and closed his eyes. So that's what you meant when you said yesterday that you want to live up to your ancestors' names, Yugao muttered. You're so hard to figure, Naru. Naruto didn't respond, and a few minutes later, Shikaku arrived in a shunshin and greeted them lazily. Good morning, brats. You're pretty early. At least you could show some excitement, sensei, Yugao muttered in annoyance. We're going on our first ever mission today. Troublesome, he said in reply with the shrug of his shoulders. Anyway, let's get going. We have a long day ahead of us. Mission Office. Team 12 reporting for duty, sir. Shikaku spoke, coming to stand with his team in front of the Hokage, who was sitting with his advisors. He was really looking forward to this and couldn't wait to see the reaction of his genins, as during the whole walk Hana and Yugao had only talked about how they were going to fight some enemy shinobi or guard some important person. Oh, how he was going to love those shocked faces when they came to reality. Team 12. So you guys are here for your first mission today. The Hokage looked at each one in turn and settled on Naruto with a smile. But before that, I would like to have a talk with you both. The Hokage looked at the girls seriously, getting their full attention. Your sensei told me that Naruto shared some of his secrets with you, and I am very proud of you both on how you handled the news. I also hope that you will not mistreat his trust in you, and will keep it a secret from others. We understand, Hokage-sama. Naruto is a very dear friend, and we are happy that he trusted us with such a big thing, and we will never do anything which puts him or our village in any danger. Yugao responded, and Hana nodded in agreement, getting a gentle smile from the elderly Hokage. I am happy that Naruto was able to make such wonderful friends, he continued. Anyway, coming back to your mission, let's see what we have. We have a request to babysit one of the council members' grandson, or walking dogs, or cleaning the river. As he went through the mission requests, the genin stared at him with wide eyes, as if he had grown a second head. Shikaku could tell by their faces exactly what they were thinking. They were ninjas now. Surely the Hokage must be jockeying with them. They weren't going to do that kind of work. I think there must be some kind of mistake, Hokage-sama, Yugao interrupted. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow with an amused expression and Shikaku smirked. I mean, we are shinobi now. Surely we're not going to do those kinds of missions, right? I don't see anything wrong with it, Yugao-chan. These are all missions that will be assigned to the Genin teams, the Hokage responded calmly. But how can they be called missions? Yugao stuttered. Anybody can do those. Don't question people who are superior to you, Genin. You will do whatever mission you're ordered to do, without any questions. Koharu, who was sitting next to the Hokage, scolded Yugao. Yugao looked down and apologized. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama. Don't be too hard on them, Koharu. It's their first day here, Hiruzen said in their defense as he looked at the young Genins in front of him. These D-rank missions are assigned to every new Genin team to build up their teamwork, and they also help increase village economy, so you see that they are very important. A mission is a mission, Hokage-sama. It doesn't matter what it is, Naruto stated with a stoic look, addressing the Hokage formally. Shikaku was glad for that, as it would not have looked good for Naruto to call the Hokage Ji-chan while he was on duty. But the Hokage sighed at Naruto's response and inwardly cursed Itachi for having so much influence on him. We will take a river cleaning mission, Hokage-sama, Shikaku said, wanting to get out of there, as it was beginning to get too troublesome for him. I can't take this anymore. Hana shouted in frustration as she stood in the middle of the river with a stick in her hand and a bucket on her back. You're not the only one, Yugao said. She then turned towards her sensei, who was lying under the shade of a tree with Hana's puppies. Come on, sensei, at least help us out here. Shikaku opened his eyes. This mission is for you guys to improve your teamwork. So stop complaining and finish up your work fast. We have other things to do after this. But sensei, this is wrong. Don't you see you're doing a crime by forcing child labor? I mean, look at him. Yugao pointed towards Naruto, who was working quietly. He looked up at the mention of his name. Don't you feel his pain? He's so small, and just a child, and you're forcing him to do this cruel work. Naruto's eyes gleamed at her comment. If she wanted to tease him, he'd give it right back. Talk about yourself. I'm perfectly fine, and I'm not some small child. I'm a shinobi. Oh right, you're a shinobi now, but you're still a small child. She pointed towards his height and grinned. Naruto glared at her. Until then, he had been working quietly and having a great time listening to all the complaining his two teammates were doing. But Yugao's teasing was too annoying to ignore. Why did people always mention his height? He was only 10. As I remember, you guys were talking about how you were going to fight an enemy shinobi or guard some important person, Naruto mocked. But you should be happy with this work. Standing in the middle of a river is about as dangerous as you two can handle. But don't worry, I'm here to save your sorry asses. Yugao and Hana in return glared at him, and Yugao smirked. Don't try to act smart in front of me, Uzumaki. Besides, you should worry about yourself. I've heard there are ghosts around here who kidnap squirts like you, so be careful. Naruto felt a little shocked at her comment. She couldn't know he was scared of ghosts. Shursui used to tell him stories about them and how dangerous they are, but he had never told the girls of his fear. Don't joke like that, and let me do my work, Naruto responded, no longer wanting to continue the conversation. Then Hana smirked. Are you scared of ghosts, Naruto-kun? No, he replied quickly. Then why are you sweating, standing in the river? Yugao asked with a teasing smile. Both girls laughed out loud, and Naruto felt embarrassed that his attempt to mock them had backfired. What a drag, Shikaku muttered, looking at their interaction. Stop fooling around and finish up the mission. After doing few more D-ranked missions over the following days, Team 12 stood together at the training grounds. This is the worst possible start for our career, Yugao stated tiredly. This is really child labor, sensei. Quit complaining, Purple-chan, Shikaku responded. You will be doing these types of missions until you're ready for something more advanced. From now on, we'll do some missions in the morning, and later we will do some training here to keep your skills up. The three Genins nodded at him, and he continued. I want to know, have you guys completed the tree climbing and water walking exercises? Yup, my mother already taught that to me, Hana responded. Yugao also nodded. I've also completed that. Shikaku then looked at Naruto. He knew Naruto had the most chakra out of them all, so it could be difficult for him to control it. But the Hokage had told him that Naruto had spent some time training with Itachi and Sure, and he wondered what they had taught him. I also know that sensei, Naruto responded. Shikaka nodded, pleased. That meant less work for him, not having to explain all the chakra and chakra control things. He could now move on to some advanced training. That's good. It means you have decent chakra control to start training in your chakra element nature. He took out 3 papers from his pocket and held them in front of his students. Take these chakra papers and channel chakra into them. This will show us what element you have an affinity for. What does chakra element and affinity mean, sensei? Hannah asked in confusion as she looked at the paper in her hand. There are 5 basic types of chakra elemental natures. They are fire, wind, water, lightning, and earth. Most people's chakra naturally leans toward a certain element. Shikaku explained. These slips of paper will help us find yours. It'll tear in half for wind, burn for fire, get soggy for water, crumble if you have earth, and if you're lightning nature, the paper will wrinkle. He then told them to channel chakra one by one, and it was Hannah who was first. She channeled some of her chakra into the paper, and as a result, the paper crumbled. You got affinity for earth, Shikaka said. He then told Yugao to do the same. Her paper got soggy. So I got affinity for water, Yugao muttered. Then it was Naruto's turn, who quickly channeled his chakra into the paper, already guessing that the paper would burn because of his ability to use fire-style jutsus. So he was surprised when the paper split in half, and then both parts wrinkled. His teammates were also looking at him in surprise. That's quite interesting. It's quite a rare combination you got there, Naruto, Shikaku said with a raised eyebrow. Wait, what does that mean? Yugao questioned confusingly. It means he has an affinity for both wind and lighting, Shikaku responded. I can see that, sensei. But how can he have affinity for 2 elements? Yugao asked. You said that people's chakra nature leans towards a central element, and yet here, he has 2 chakra natures. Well, that is true, but some people are gifted naturally with 2 elements. You can also develop your second affinity by training in it, and you can also do jutsu of other elements. But that will take too much chakra out of you at your stage. Most jounin have 2 chakra natures, as it is one of the requirements for becoming a jounin, Shikaku explained. But you also should be aware that all 5 chakra elemental natures balance each other out equally, Shikaku said. How? Hannah asked. To put it simply, fire, water, lightning, wind, and earth each have an elemental advantage and disadvantage connecting them to the other elements, Shikaku explained. For example, fire is stronger than wind, but at the same time, it's weak against water. Each element has an advantage over another and is weak to another. Ah, this is so complicated, Hannah said, rubbing her forehead. You guys wanted something interesting today, so I decided to give you something, so don't bother me with it. Shikaka shrugged. I shouldn't be even teaching you about this. Many shinobi don't even start their elemental training until their Chunin level. But you guys have enough chakra, so I decided to go with it. So, what are we going to do now, sensei? Naruto asked. Shikaku just shrugged his shoulders. Unfortunately for you guys, I am not a ninjutsu specialist, so I will have to arrange something for you all. But don't worry, I will get some low-level jutsu tomorrow for you to start with. Also, I am going to apply some weight seals on you 3, so you will do your daily missions and training with the seals on, Shikaku added. It will help to increase your speed and improve your chakra control. He then applied the seals on them and activated them. At their activation, the genins suddenly struggled to stand straight. I think you're trying to kill us, sensei. At least show some mercy on us, Hannah muttered. You'll get used to it in time, Shikaka said. Don't you want to get strong? Now come on, give me 20 laps of the field. You are crazy, Yugao and Hannah muttered at the same time. Naruto was also having a little difficulty, but not as much as the other 2. Itachi and Sure had used some weights before for him to train. But these were much heavier, he realized, as he joined his teammates in the run. Some hours later, the 3 genins were sitting and relaxing quietly after their hard workout session. After running, they had done some shuriken jutsu practice, some taijutsu training, and then decided on their team formation. Ah, I am so tired, Hannah muttered. You all did well today. Get used to this from now on. This will be our daily schedule, Shikaka told them and got a glare from Hana and Yugao in return. Naruto looked up at the sky and realized that it was already evening and the sun was going to go down soon. He stood to leave. Where are you going, Naruto? Yugao asked. The sun is going to set soon, he answered. So I'm going to enjoy the view as I have nothing else important to do right now. His teammates and sensei looked at him in surprise. Well, then can I come with you? Hana said. I also don't have anything to do now. Naruto thought for a moment and then nodded. Hana grinned at him, then looked at Yugao. What about you, Yugao? Yugao nodded and looked at their lazy sensei. Come on, sensei, come with us. Troublesome, Shikaka muttered before accepting their offer. It would be good bonding time. Hokage Monument. Wow, both Hana and Yugao said in awe at the view before them. They were standing on the fourth Hokage's head looking out at the sunset as it ignited their whole village into a fiery work of art. This is so beautiful. I have never seen anything like this in my life, Yugao whispered. I always used to come here with the Hokage to enjoy the view. It's always peaceful here, and it's the only place I can talk to him, Naruto said, looking at great stone face of his father. Shikaku and his teammates smiled in response. Shikaku was enjoying the time as well. Just leaving every troublesome thing behind while relaxing was exactly the kind of thing he liked to do. Can I ask you something, Naruto? Yugao said, breaking the silence. Naruto looked at her and nodded. Why didn't you ever talk much in the class? She asked. Naruto thought about his academy days. He'd had his priorities clear from the start even before the academy, and he had not been there to have fun or to make friends, and nobody had really interested him there. To him, all the other students had seemed to have it so easy and knew nothing of the outside world. He looked at her. There was nothing to talk about, and nobody understood me there. They were all living in their fantasy worlds, thinking nothing was wrong in this world. They were not doing anything wrong with that, Shikaka said. That's what they were supposed to do, and that's what you were supposed to do. That's why we have an academy to let students make friends before becoming ninja. Then why did you start to talk and hang out with us? Hana asked. Naruto chuckled a little before saying, You guys were the first ones who came to me to talk without crumbling or just telling me how strong I was or how cute I was or asking me out on a date. Which girl in her right mind would like to go on a date with you? Yugao muttered, earning a glare from him. Are you serious? Hana said with a surprised look. Naruto nodded. Why did you want to become kunoichi? I am not from any clan, and even in my family not many people became shinobi, Yugao answered. Only my father and grandfather were shinobi. I'm actually the first ever kunoichi from my family. So I wanted to become as strong as possible so I can make my parents proud of me. I also wanted to become a kunoichi to make my mother and my clan proud of me, Hana said. Naruto nodded, not really surprised by their responses. He had already heard that kind of thing from others as well, but at least they were serious with their training and careers. You know, you always say that you want to become Hokage, but you never mentioned any particular reason. Yugao said, Is it because of who your ancestors were and wanting to live up to them? Naruto hesitated to tell them his real reasons. The last time he had told his dreams to his former classmates, they had laughed at him. He wondered if his teammates would understand him. That's not totally wrong. I want to live up to my predecessors' names. But my main reason is that I want to stop all the fighting in this world. His answer seemed to surprise his teammates. What do you mean by that, Naruto? Shikaku asked. Naruto looked ahead towards the setting sun and thought for a moment before he spoke. I may not have seen any war or anyone dying in front of me, but I know war brings meaningless deaths and suffering. Shinobi kill each other in the name of the village. But to stop that I need power, and the people only listen to those who have power. So I want to be the greatest ninja ever, great enough that I can erase all meaningless fighting from this world. And being Hokage will give me the power to do that. I'm surprised to hear you talk so mature, Shikaka said. You're only 10, and yet you talk of the shinobi world as if you've experienced it. Yeah, you sometimes talk really weird, Yugao said. It's very hard to figure you out. The moment I think I understand you, you go and say something like this. Naruto chuckled a little, but there was some bitterness in it. I can totally agree with you on that, Yugao, he said. I don't even know myself up till now. I am still trying to figure myself out. Am I the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, just a village weapon to be used in war? Or am I Naruto Uzumaki, on whom some people trusted what they had left behind? He spoke bitterly. So many people expected great things from him, and it felt like a burden. Stop talking nonsense, Yugao said, glaring at him. I told you before it doesn't matter if you have a fucking Kyuubi sealed in your gut, or if you're the son or great-grandson of the Hokage. You're still your own person. You have your own life in front of you to do what you want. Nothing is written in stone, and everyone carves their own path. And stop putting so much pressure on yourself because of your family name. The Naru, I know, will never crack under any pressure. He can overcome anything. Naruto looked at her in surprise, and then smiled a moment later. When did you become this smart, Purple-chan? Hana and Shikaku smiled at them. All right, that's enough. It's getting late, Shikaku said. Go and rest. You will have a busy day again tomorrow. He wanted to leave as soon as possible because he had some very important topics to discuss with the Hokage. Don't be late tomorrow, he added before vanishing in the leaves. The Genins looked at each other and then bid each other good night before going their separate ways. Hokage office. I'm concerned and alarmed by Naruto's thinking, Shikaku said to the Hokage a few minutes later. These should not be the thoughts of any 10-year-old child. It's not good for Naruto to have these kinds of thoughts. Hokage was troubled at his words. This is indeed troubling Shikaku. Yeah, he is feeling too much pressure because of so many expectations, Shikaku said. Keep an eye on him, Shikaku, and don't let him do anything unnecessary. Hiruzen said, I am worried that Danzo might make a move on him. He always kept a close eye on his progress. I have already informed Naruto about him and told him to be careful. But on the other hand, it's also good that Naruto opened up with his teammates. After the death of Shursui and Itachi going rogue, he has started to act cold and has been closing himself off from people around him. It is good to see that he is overcoming that. Also, his teammates are very understanding, Shikaku said. They tease him, but underneath it all, they always support him. I think they are good for him. Yes, indeed. I am certain now that my decision to put him on a team with those two was the right one. Hiruzen commented with a satisfied smile on his face. Well, that's all I wanted to discuss with you, Shikaku said with a bow. I will be taking my leave now. Hiruzen nodded. Please look after him, Shikaku. Don't worry, I will. Shikaku responded before exiting the office and leaving the elderly Hokage alone. It's been 2 months since Naruto graduated from the academy and started doing missions as a genin. His relationship with his teammates has also grown deeper over the time. Of course, Hana and Yugao hadn't stopped making fun of him whenever they got the chance, but Naruto still felt that his team was perfect for him. They always managed to execute their missions without any fuss, and he was glad, because he had no intention of failing. Although he was a little irritated that his team hadn't been sent out on any particularly difficult missions yet. In fact, thinking back on his time as a genin so far, the only difficult mission he could think of was when his team had been assigned to guard a businessman, and they ended up facing a group low-rank missing ninja from the Mist Village. Naruto knew that if he was going to become strong and rise up in the ranks as soon as possible, he would need more challenging missions. Because of that, he spent all his free time pouring his heart into polishing his skills under the supervision of his Jounin sensei. At the present moment, he was walking with his teammates and sensei back towards their village. They were coming from yet another successfully completed mission. At least the mission had been important, if not difficult. They had been assigned to guard the daimyo of the Land of Fire back towards the capital. The village of Konohagakure was within the territory of the Land of Fire, and the ruler of the Land of Fire was the daimyo. But although the village was located in the Land of Fire, it functioned semi-autonomously, with an independent government structure that had the Hokage at the top. On paper, the daimyo of the Land of Fire was ranked above the Hokage, but currently the land's military power rested with the ninja of Konoha, so the relationship between the two was more like an alliance of equals rather than master and servant. The Land of Fire's daimyo visited Konohagakure annually. This regular event was important for both sides, and had been faithfully held even during the Great War. This mission was a waste of time, Hana was muttering. I was expecting some kind of action in this. Shikaku sighed. The lands have all relaxed now that this is not the war time. So travel between nations is much safer than before, which is why the village can assign this sort of mission to a Jin-encountered team. It was still boring. We just wasted our time, she replied with a pout. Guarding the daimyo was a very important job for us, Shikaku said. This time Yugao looked at their sensei with a deadpan stare. How was that mission important to us, sensei? There was still an Umbu squad keeping their eye on things from the shadows. And the daimyo even had his own 12 guardian ninja to protect him. We were just a formality in that mission, nothing more, Naruto stated. Well, if you guys want to put it like that, then yes, Shikaku said with a shrug of his shoulders. The roads are quite safe since the end of the Great War, so a team that has distinguished themselves as the most promising Genin team is assigned to guard the daimyo each year. So you guys see, you should all feel proud that the village higher-ups acknowledge our team as the best. Well, if you put it like that, then I don't see anything wrong with it, Naruto responded. Shikaku rolled his eyes. It might be best if we pick up our pace. Otherwise, we won't be able to reach the village before nightfall. The three Genin nodded at him and proceeded toward the Leaf Village at a fast pace. Some hours later, Team 12 arrived back at Konoha Village. It was still early evening, and after they reported at the main gates of their arrival, they went straight towards the Hokage office to file their mission report. Hokage office. So the trip went without any incident, Hokage said. Yes, nothing major happened, other than some bandits, Shikaka said. But nothing my team couldn't handle. The daimyo was also very pleased with the service he got. Hiruzen nodded and smiled at the Genins. You all did well. Guarding the daimyo is a very important task to be assigned to, and your payments will be transferred to your accounts. Now go and rest a little. But come to my office tomorrow early because I have a very important mission for you. The team nodded and bowed before him in respect before exiting the office. What a tiring day it was, Yugao muttered as they walked toward their usual barbecue shop to get something to eat. Their sensei was following behind them with his hands in his pockets. Just then, someone blocked their path by standing in front of Naruto, and Shikaku was immediately on guard. It was a man Naruto had seen with the Hokage many times, but something about him gave off an ominous feeling of darkness that put Naruto on guard too. So are you the Naruto Uzumaki that I've heard so much about? The man asked, looking down on him. The right side of his face was covered by bandages. He was clad in black, but his arm from his left shoulder was exposed, revealing the white robe he wore underneath. His left eye alone glared down at Naruto. Unflinchingly, Naruto met the man's sinister gaze. Behind him, his sensei eyes were narrowed and his other two team members were bristling with tension. You are a bearer of bad luck, boy, the man stated without any emotion. Bad luck? Naruto asked, his face equally unreadable. Your birth led to the village destruction and even led to your parents' deaths. The man then pointed toward Naruto's stomach. Chaos will follow you throughout your life. That is your destiny, and you can't change it. Chaos will follow you throughout your life. Who exactly was this man? Naruto thought. What do you want, Danzo? Shikaku said, glaring at him. I just wanted to meet young Naruto here since I've heard so much about him. As Danzo spoke, his eyes didn't leave Naruto. They say you're the most talented and gifted shinobi, one who only comes once in a generation. I have a question for you, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto looked at him silently and waited for the man to continue. 10 of our brethren have been shipwrecked, Danzo said. One of them has caught a nasty, infectious disease. If he is allowed to live, the other 9 will also get sick and die. If you were the captain of that ship, what judgment would you hand down? Without hesitation, Naruto offered a response. No matter what happened, the one who is sick is destined to die. If I were the captain, I would think that my first priority would be to save the lives of the other 9. I would choose to kill the one and save the 9. A bold smile crossed Danzo's face. A very unambiguous response. He moved toward Naruto and whispered as he passed. I look forward to the day we meet again, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto felt the malicious echo of the man's voice sully his heart with darkness. Naruto, Shikaka said, bringing Naruto out his thoughts. I don't like that man, Yugao muttered, looking at Naruto in concern. His chakra made me feel sick. Who was he, sensei? Hina asked. I had seen that man in Hokage's office, and he gives me the shivers. Danzo Shimura, Shikaka said, his voice dark as he looked at the man's departing back. He's a close aide of the third. Danzo's words lingered in the air, and Naruto felt a sharp pain in his chest. Placing a hand where it ached, Naruto stared at the man's back as he walked away, until the pain disappeared. He turned to his sensei. Sensei, what does he mean by, chaos will follow me throughout my life? Shikaka looked at Naruto and put a hand on his shoulder. Don't pay too much attention to what he said, Naruto. Just keep your distance from that man. Hokage-sama had already warned you about him, I think. Naruto nodded, but long after, still couldn't get Danzo's words out of his mind. This must be the Danzo that Itachi had once mentioned. Naruto suddenly became sure that this man had something to do with the Uchiha clan massacre. He continued his walk with his teammates toward the restaurant, but his mind couldn't shake the meeting. He had to find out more about that man. Hokage office. The next morning, Team 12 was standing in front of the Hokage building, waiting Shikaku. Finally, minutes later, their lazy Jounin sensei arrived, and they all went inside to the Hokage's office to get their mission. Hiruzen smiled and greeted them. Good you're all here. As I said, I have a mission for you. Probably it will be something boring again, Yugao muttered in a low voice to her teammates. Hiruzen chuckled and spoke. No, Yugao-chan. It's an important mission about village security, a B rank, and bordering on A rank. Then he got serious and handed a file to Shikaku. Shikaku read the name of a person on the file. Mizuki, an academy instructor and a Chunin rank shinobi. What about him? A few months back, his two teammates died on a simple B rank mission, Hiruzen explained. Upon inspecting their bodies, we found there was no major injury which could result in their deaths, and we found that they both died by suffocating. This left us to suspect Mizuki was behind it, so without his knowing, we monitored his activities and found that he is providing secret information to the village enemy. This doesn't sound like a mission that Jinin should be involved with, Shikaka said. Hiruzen nodded. That is true, but all the Umbu and Jounin I can spare are out of the village. As you know, with the loss of the Uchiha clan, our forces have been left weakened. Your team is the only other one that can handle this type of mission. So what do we have to do? Naruto asked, satisfied that they finally had what sounded like a challenging mission, even if it was only a B rank. Hiruzen looked at him. Investigate what kind of information he is supplying to the enemy and arrest him for his crime against the village. But make sure that he is captured alive for interrogation. So how are we going to go with this mission? Hana asked as they all stood at the top of the administrative building after the meeting. It's morning now, which means that Mizuki will be at the academy, Shikaka said. It gives us an opportunity to search his house. But we also have to keep an eye on him. Hana and I will go to his house. Naruto and Yugao will keep monitoring his movements from the shadows. The Jinins nodded in agreement. But don't make any move on him until I get back, Shikaku then said. A moment later, Shikaku gave the command and then vanished with Hana. A moment later, Naruto and Yugao moved towards the academy to do their part of the mission. Ninja Academy. Naruto and Yugao arrived near the academy and hid themselves in the trees so they could look inside the class through its windows. Irika stood at the front of a group of 7-year-olds. Their target had white shoulder-length hair with a slight blue to it and green eyes. He wore the standard uniform of Konohinin, which included a Chunin flak jacket and a forehead protector that he wore like a bandana. Why are there two instructors in the same class? Naruto asked his partner in confusion. I heard the academy system has changed this year, Yugao said. It's a lot easier now, and the early graduation is banned because of what happened with the Uchiha clan. Naruto nodded. He knew that a lot of things had changed in the village after Itachi massacred the Uchiha clan. You were quite lucky that they let you graduate early, Naru, Yugao commented as she looked at him. The village was in need of more shinobi because of the threat of war, with all the things happening at that time. You know, there was the attempted kidnapping of the Hyuga heiress by Cloud Shinobi, and also a Iva spy was found in the village, Naruto said. Yugao nodded. Naruto knew she had also been offered a chance to graduate a year early, but her parents didn't approve. She then smirked. Naru, what if somebody tried to kidnap me? What would you do? Naruto looked at her, but just shrugged his shoulders and took a thinking pose. He didn't want to give her the answer she was looking for, so he said with a smirk of his own, "I think I would be very thankful, and I'd even help whoever was trying to kidnap you. I mean, if you're gone, then I would have one less thing to worry about." Yugao glared at him and turned her head away. Seeing her expression, Naruto chuckled. It was always him at the receiving end, but he had learned one or two things by being around her and Hana. They continued their mission seriously after that, and if they hadn't already known, they would never suspect him for a spy. He was polite with every student in the class, and just by looking, they both could see that Irika and Mizuki were good friends who had known each other for a long time. Half of the day went by just like that, both Jinin following Mizuki from the shadows, but they saw nothing that could highlight him as a danger for the village. But Naruto knew never to judge a person on appearance with the kind of world they lived in. Some moments later, the other two members of the team joined them, and Yugao asked, "Did you guys find anything valuable?" "Not just anything. That guy has full information on our Umbu and regular forces. That guy is a rat," Hana responded seriously. "Did anything happen here?" Shikaku asked. Yugao shook her head. "Everything's normal." Shikaka nodded. "We have all the evidence we need. But we should also look into if he was working with someone from inside the village or if he was alone in all this." Now together, all four watched Irika and Mizuki coming out to the academy grounds with all the students behind them. "Hey sensei, that black-haired half-sleepy kid, standing with my brother, looks a lot like you," Hana pointed out. "Troublesome. He is my son, Shikamaru," Shikaku informed them. They heard Irika speaking to the kids and informing them of the rules of sparring. Irika then started calling out pairs for the spar one by one. "All right, now Shikamaru versus Choji, please come forward." The Jinins up in the trees saw their sensei's son and a chubby-looking kid come forward to stand in the circle. As Irika was going through the rules, the chubby kid raised his hand and said, "So, sensei." "Yes, what is it, Choji?" Irika asked. "The thing is, I really don't want to fight against my friends, you know," the kid said. Irika smiled. "Well, look Choji, this isn't like a fight. This is traditional shinobi hand-to-hand combat. Even our Hokage and those before him participated and became strong through sparring." As Irika was giving his lecture, Shikamaru shrugged his shoulders and started walking off the field. "Yeah, that looks sensei, just go ahead and put that I won by being out of bounds, okay? Then you can move on to the next pair," Shikamaru said. "Hey, wait." Irika tried to stop him. "You might be calling this fight training or whatever, but if there is going to be a winner, then it's actually a match, and since that's the case, wouldn't it save you some trouble to decide who wins from the start?" Shikamaru spoke. The Jinins in the trees looked at their sensei. Yugao spoke. "He is your son sensei. He really doesn't have any motivation," Hana commented with a chuckle. "Troublesome," was the only response from Shikaka they got. Later, after nightfall, the team followed Mizuki as he walked toward the forest. They had already informed the Hokage of their findings and had been ordered to arrest Mizuki as soon as possible. Their plan was to ambush him in the forest, away from the village. Shikaku had told them they would be doing the arrest on their own, and he would be keeping watch on them from behind. As they moved deeper into the forest and came to stop at the clearing, they noticed another person was already there practicing. It was Irika, and they realized that they couldn't make a move in front of Irika. So they remained hidden, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Irika, what are you doing here at this time?" Mizuki questioned. Irika turned around to look at him in surprise. "Oh, it's you, Mizuki. I came to train here, but I'm just finishing now." He then went to sit on the nearby log. Mizuki sat beside him. "So how's the academy so far?" Irika asked. "Are you enjoying your time there?" "The academy is all right, but teaching those brats in the class is really annoying sometimes," Mizuki responded. Irika laughed at that. "They are not that bad, and some of them are quite talented." "They are still annoying to me," Mizuki responded. "Don't worry, it'll improve with time," Irika said. Mizuki shrugged his shoulders. "You must be pretty high in Hokage-sama's opinion to let you teach a class full of clan heirs. So who would you pick up as the strongest out of all of them?" "I can't compare my students with each other like that. But if I had to pick one, I guess I'd go with one of the students from my last batch." I have never seen a student like him in my entire career. I can't even compare him with anyone else. He was in a league of his own. Who was he? Mizuki asked in surprise. His name is Naruto Uzumaki. He graduated from the academy this year. Iruka responded, and even from their vantage point, the genin could see the hate radiating from Mizuki. But Iruka appeared not to sense it. The QB boy, Mizuki said, his voice dark. Iruka's face registered surprise. This was also the first time Team 12 had heard him say something different than his normal polite way. Don't joke like that, Iruka. He doesn't even deserve to be a shinobi. I don't understand why Hokage allowed such a thing like that to be won. Iruka stood up and looked at Mizuki in anger. He is not a thing, Mizuki. He is a very kind-hearted boy who had things hard while growing up, and he didn't even let other people's opinions affect him. Mizuki just waved him off. You don't have to put up an act in front of me, Iruka. I understand. You just pretended that in front of the Hokage to get on his good side. You had to be the one who hated him the most. After all, isn't he the one who killed your parents in the attack? But one day I am going to kill that demon, Iruka. As this was going on, Naruto continued to observe his target carefully. What Mizuki thought about him didn't matter to him. Mizuki was a traitor and Naruto was going to make him pay for it. Iruka tightened his fist and punched Mizuki hard in the face. I can never see you as my friend from now. I never could have thought that you would be this kind of person. And you will never touch Naruto. Mizuki chuckled